you ready?
This is the D-Generation Clix podcast with your hosts,
Who is Ravage?
Ryan Ruttman,
Ravage.
Hand me that bottle cap.
Miles Kane,
Hand me that paperclip. Grab that twine. Gun wrapper.
Daniel Schwab,
We
best friends, Asgard to mouth, and Pete.
'cause I'm just me.
Welcome back to the D-Generation Clix podcast. I'm your host, Ryan, and with me as always are Miles, Dan, and Pete. Miles, how are you doing?
It's week 2 of a grind of work. My body's not used to it, but the checks are good, so I'll get used to it.
Awesome.
Yeah, so I'm exhausted, but yeah, overall good.
Welcome back to the workforce.
Yes.
And Dan, what about you?
To round 3, baby. Let's go. My next interview is on Monday, so pretty stoked.
Good luck. Is that the last round?
Yes, and otherwise, I have also a jam-packed weekend of Heroclix, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. I'm going to be very tired by Monday night.
Oh yeah, there's a ton of HeroClix coming up here. Pete, we did miss you Monday. Are you going to be doing all 3 days with us next week coming up here?
Oh, I'm looking forward to the monthly as always. On Saturday, I'm definitely committed. I'm debating Sunday because it is a pre-release, and I love to pull my CURs. But I'm most excited tonight that we're going to have the most handsome man in HeroClix besides young Daniel on our podcast, and I don't mean you, Revan.
Yes, that is very exciting. All right, Pete, hit us with that Bookwood report.
Bookwood report.
Hello, friends. It's time for the people segment. The Scott Porter Bookwood report. This week, Bookwood had a little bit of a light week, but he had some bangers. I'm not going to lie. He's been saying he's saving up for the new set. So he got himself a Grand Prize Genesis for $35. Nice job, Bookwood. He also got himself a Leader Legacy piece coming out in the new set upcoming. And finally, to round out the Bookwood report, he wanted me to include this. It's not HeroClix related, but it's wrestling related. Say his name, and he appears. Bookwood got himself a Joe Hendry t-shirt. Redman,
Terrible.
how do you feel about Joe Hendry?
Terrible. I wish that I didn't know that. I wish he didn't pick it up.
I enjoyed Joe Hendry getting RKO'd. That
Yes,
was hilarious.
that was good.
The 3 RKOs were just wild.
Never change, Randall K. Never change.
Now, I do want to touch.
That's it. That's what I got.
Oh, I do want to touch on the try hard that Bookwood was this week with his Prime team. So our weekly event was play all Primes on your team, and boy, did he play all the Primes: Prime Spider-Man, Reverse Prime, Reverse Flash, and or some of the other big ones. The new Spider-Ham, Colossus Prime. Yeah, the top Primes. He fit them in 400 points, and boy, did he go to town. So good job, Bookwood.
So he's coming on Saturday, so he best be prepared then for the
What did he win with that Prime team?
Nothing. He got some win victories.
Oh wow! Way to just, that he's way to bust your load that easy. Holy crap! Wow.
And we do have a very special guest this episode joining us for the first time, something the Eaglecast never had, Scott Porter. Scott, how are you doing today?
What's up, everybody? Yeah, I couldn't go on theirs because, I don't know, birds don't have biceps. We just crush them,
Neither does Pete.
It wasn't going to work out. Get wrecked, birds. All right. What's up, everybody?
How's it going? Thanks for joining us.
It's going great, man. I'm super excited to be here, and less than a month out for our big event, and yeah, I'm just stoked.
Yeah, this is also always a very exciting time in Heroclix. I think a lot of people are excited for this this next month. We do have a little guy here that is close to his bedtime, so if you don't mind answering just a couple questions from Oliver and Christine.
Of course, I would love to.
All right, what do you got, Oliver?
First question. So I got 3 questions to know. First question. What Scott Porter do you think is better, white shirt or black shirt?
Oh, well, the whole thing behind the Scott Porters is they spun out of our charity event, Heroclix for Huntingtons, where family is everything, is the tagline. And Black Shirt Scott Porter has the Heroclix for Huntingtons logo on his shirt. Single-handedly tried to bring theme back to Heroclix at a time when theme was just getting removed from everything. So quote-unquote family in the game. So for me, as fun as the Powerbomb white, shirt Scott Porter is, I think the black shirt Scott Porter will always have a very special place in my heart.
Very cool.
Second question. Who is your favorite person to voice that you have voiced?
Oh, man. This is a tough one, partner. The Flash was a bucket list for me. The Flash is my all-time favorite DC hero. But just recently, I got to do Iceman, which is my all-time favorite Marvel hero in the newest Lego Marvel Avengers movie. And so, those two, I would think, would probably be my favorite. But at the end of the day, I have been voicing Star-Lord for the last 10 years now, over, I think, 13 different projects, some of which never even came to the States. They were like overseas games in Korea. But so for a lot of people overseas, like I'm the voice of Star-Lord. So I think I'm going to have to say Peter Quill.
Very cool.
And then
really liked
last
your
question. What is your favorite HeroClix set?
Oh, man. Now we're really getting into it. There's a few that stand out for me just because of like the theme of the set and, how they were a mirror to my childhood and things I loved growing up. Batman the Animated Series was a very cool set for me. Justice League Unlimited, very cool set as well, because those cartoons I watched, when I was growing up, and they were very formative in the way I love comic books and love the game of HeroClix. That being said, I think the first set that really made me go, man, this is such a cool idea was, was it Monsters and Mutations? Was a set that I really, really loved for a very long time. So I think those 3 sets are definitely some of my favorite sets. And I'm not talking about playability here. I'm not talking about, the sets that have the biggest, meta breakers or, any of those things. These are just the sets that I really loved the idea behind. So I'm going to say those 3 sets and leave it at that. It's just tough. I mean, geez, 20 years, so many sets. I mean, it's tough to pick just one. So, but that's how I looked at the game of HeroClix now is, where does it take me back to in my life? What time frame was the set released in and what is it based upon? And for me, those 3 sets are really cool.
Yeah, I think we all have sets like that aren't like super meta, but we just have a lot of fun with them.
Yeah.
What's yours?
Either Deadpool and After Spider-Verse.
2 of the newer ones, yeah. I know you've only been going for a few years now, but yeah, those are both really fun ones.
And then I've heard you've been
Those are great.
voicing Star-Lord in Marvel Rivals.
Yeah. Have you been playing the game?
Sometimes. If my phone has to download,
Sometimes
I jump into either Marvel Rivals or Halo.
He does like his Marvel. He likes Fortnite a lot, but he does take breaks from that to play Marvel Rivals. And he said he was playing Star-Lord specifically to hear you, but there weren't any lines coming up.
Yeah, you got to end up on certain planets. If you end up on Clintar, where the symbiotes are from.
Yes.
Where everything is like really oozy
I've
in the
landed
background.
down there a ton of times.
Well, in the storyline of Marvel Rivals, that is where Star-Lord and his team of rivals end up on. So he has a lot of really cool interactive lines. If you explore Clintar while you're there, you'll hear him say some things about his ship crashing. And if Rocket's on your team, you'll hear the two of them bickering back and forth about whose fault it was that the ship crashed. So there are some really cool things that the writers did for that game that are a lot of fun to go and find. So here's when you're not playing Star-Lord and you hear, Jerry! What do? Do you run?
Do you run?
No.
You don't run?
I shoot or I just steal souls with Scarlet Witch.
Okay.
I got a 25 bomb with Scarlet Witch.
You like Scarlet Witch.
You know, you self-sacrifice for the team. I like the way you play, brother. I like the way you
Or
play.
I just come in and slice people up with Wolverine.
All right, is there anything else you want to say?
I think that's it.
That's it? All right. Well, thanks, bud. All right, and then Christine.
Thanks, man.
Christine, you had a couple questions?
Yes, I just have one. I do not want to eat away at your guys' time, but I love a good origin story. So, Scott, can you briefly share your Heroclix origin story with us? Like, what got you into the game in the first place?
Sure, yeah. I was going into Coliseum of Comics. I'm a big comic book nerd. Me and my buddy Rick, rest in peace. And I were going into Coliseum of Comics together and saw this new game, Infinity Challenge Heroclix, just hanging on, the board game section of the Fashion Square Mall Coliseum. And we're like, what is this? And they couldn't even really explain it to us. So we bought 2 packs and we went home, and I pulled Cyclops and he pulled Firelord. And he and I were single-handedly with those 2 figures just wiping the map consistently. We were like, what is happening? These guys are so powerful. And it was like this, superhero power fantasy moment for Rick and I, where we were like, this is awesome. And we drove 25 minutes back to Fashion Square and bought the starter kit and bought everything else that we had missed out on the first time that we were down there. And we went back home, and then we just played for like the next week. Then I asked them if they were going to start running games. And Coliseum of Comics said they didn't have anybody in place or anybody that really knew the game. They had some like learn to play kits and a couple of other things that WizKids had done very early on. And I said, well, if you need somebody, I'm around. I was working full time at Universal Studios at the time, singing and dancing, and the Beetlejuice's Graveyard Review monster show. And I was in my 3rd year of college, I think, at the time. And I had a couple of free nights, and I started envoying, is what they used to call it, not judging. They used to be an envoy if you were the person who was running events at any particular store. So I was an envoy at 3 different stores in Orlando, Florida, and really people playing the game. And then got my whole cast of Beetlejuice's Graveyard Review to start playing. So if you ever walked into the break room, you would see Wolfman and Dracula and Frankenstein and Beetlejuice playing Heroclix around a 3x3 map, because back then the maps were giant. They were 3 feet by 3 feet, 36 by 36. So
Oh my gosh.
that was my introduction in, and I've stuck around ever since. I mean, the whole reason I do unboxings is because even when I lived in Japan for a year in the middle of playing, I played remotely through HC Realms and Creation Matrix and different forums with online map tools and die rollers. And when I came back to the States and booked Friday Night Lights, I went to Austin, Texas, and I was playing at multiple venues down there while I was shooting. I took Zach Gilford and Minka Kelly with me, 2 of my co-stars, to see me play one night. I think I was playing X Factor with my Quicksilver and my armor piercing, and it was just like it was just a part of every step of my life. And when Heroclix went away, I was really bummed about it. And when the announcement happened that they got the rights back from Topps and they were putting putting Heroclix back out, with their new partnership with NECA, I said, look, I don't want this game to ever like kind of die again. So if I can help. At that point I had done, 6, 7, 8 years on TV, and they said, yeah, let's figure something out. And I said, well, why don't we do some unboxings? And that's how I became like the unboxer. So I played for a decade, and now I've been, a part of like trying to keep the game like healthy and alive for a decade. So that's, I guess, not just the beginning, but like my whole story as a Heroclix guy.
Well,
Very
thank
cool.
you so much for sharing that with us. Yeah, that was really cool to hear. And yeah, thank you for coming on the show tonight with the guys. I know they're really looking forward to talking to you. So I will bow out, but thank you all for having me on as well.
Thanks for coming.
Oh, thank you. It's good to chat with you.
Yeah, very cool. Have a great show, guys. Thanks so much.
Thanks. Good night.
Good night. Bye.
All right. So before we get into the details for Heroclix for Huntington's, can you give us a little bit of a background of the disease and just how it's affected you and your family?
Yeah. Huntington's disease wasn't something I'd ever heard of until the year my wife and I were married, actually. We had dated for 5 years and got married, and I'd been thinking about, having kids and such. And the Christmas after we got married, we sat down with her parents, and her father told us that they had trying to figure out some medical issues with her mother. And it took about 6 or 7 years to diagnose. It started out as misdiagnoses as, she has carpal tunnel, or, she's forgetting things. She has, early onset Alzheimer's, or any number of different things. Doctors were stumped by some of the things that she was going through. And she was finally diagnosed, and my in-laws told us the Christmas after we got married that she had been diagnosed with Huntington's disease. Now, for anybody out there who doesn't know, Huntington's disease is a degenerative neurological disease that is best described as having ALS and Alzheimer's and Parkinson's all rolled into one. So your mind, your body, your balance, your ability to swallow, your cognitive response, all of these things are affected. And it's at the genetic level. And it's caused by a protein that you all and me and everybody else out there that doesn't have HD, we have this protein in our body that's created. Everybody with Huntington's has 2 times the amount created. There's a duplication or a mutation in their DNA at the genetic level that creates extra of this protein. And it rips everything apart in that high of a volume. And we found this out, and then very quickly found out that because it's genetic, there is a 50-50 shot that Kelsey also had Huntington's. And we had no idea. And we went and got tested, or she got tested, and I was with her. And my wife is the strongest, most capable, most incredible person I know. And we found out that she got her mom's gene, or part of the DNA, the genetic mutation that her mother has for Huntington's. She inherited that. It's a 50-50 shot. Every child of a parent with Huntington's has a 50-50 shot of inheriting the gene. And she found out, and we walked out into the garage at the hospital that we found out in, and she looked at me in typical Kelsey fashion, and I don't know if you're going to have to censor this, but I'm going to quote her directly.
You're good.
Fuck. Coin flip. And it came up tails. And that's all she initially said. And it was the way she processed all of this was just, beyond my capacity of understanding how she dealt with it then and how she deals with it every day. But we drove home 45 minutes because it's LA. And in order to get anywhere in LA, you got to drive for a long time. And we drove 7 miles in 45 minutes. And she said, I want to be a mom as long as I can. So we have to figure out how we have kids in a healthy way and make sure they don't have this. And we went on a 2-year journey of IVF, trying to figure out how we could have children without them having Huntington's. We found a way, and we have 2 beautiful children, and they don't have Huntington's. And we were so focused on us for a while. And after my daughter was born, and she was, it was her 2nd birthday, my wife finally rolled over and said, okay, I think I'm ready to get involved and help figure out a way to cure this thing and how to help families like us deal with it, because we're in a very fortunate position. And I had been chomping at the bit. I had been waiting for 2 years to get involved and just, but it has to be on her terms. It has to be on her time, as it is for a lot of people who are dealing with different diseases. And I started helping HDSA, which is the Huntington's Disease Society of America, which Heroclix for Huntington supports, in a much bigger event and in a much bigger fashion. And we made close to 2 million plus with a big event called Freeze HD. And it was a LA gala, and it was extravagant, and it was a whole thing, and it was like 8 months of planning every year, and it started to really just wear on us, because we're talking about HD all the time. And we're asking everybody we know in our lives to help. But in that time frame, WizKids sent a couple of unreleased figures to us that ended up going for like $2,000 a piece. It was like, it was Baby Thanos and a couple of other pieces.
Oh, I remember that, yeah.
I noticed something. Yeah, if you remember, I think, bidding went crazy. I think Crampton won one. A couple of people really, went hard on these figures. And I said, maybe there's something here. Maybe there's something that I can do just in the Heroclix realm of things, and maybe not have to spend 8 months of my life talking about HD. Or maybe I can pair talking about HD with something that I love, like Heroclix and the community that I feel like I'm such a, so fortunate to be a part of. And that was the impetus kind of for Heroclix for Huntington's. And, I've been looking for a partner. Howard came along, and Tracy had just fought through or gone into remission with cancer. And, Howard was like, I want to find somebody else who I can help, who has gone through something similar as I have. And he reached out to me, and I had been looking for a partner to do. At the time, I wanted to call it Heroes for Huntington's, and then it kind of all just clicked. So not pun not intended there. But something just clicked. He called me and he said, "Hey, why doesn't The Rock and your Heroes for Huntington's idea? Why don't we join forces?" And it was awesome, and the rest is history. So that's the background of Huntington's and how it affects me. There are over 250,000 people in this country diagnosed with Huntington's disease. And if you think about a 50-50 shot of everybody, who is a descendant of whoever has Huntington's, the 50-50 shot, I mean, it tears through families. And so that number could be way, way larger than we know, right? Because these are only the people that are diagnosed. But unfortunately, in this country, they call HD a boutique disease. And that means it's not big enough for anybody to care about. So we're doing everything we can to raise awareness in a positive way and help those families who maybe don't have the funds or the free time or everything that we have as a family to really fight this thing head on. So with Heroclix for Huntington's, we aim to help those families by building centers of excellence, which means we send teams in to hospitals all across this country, teach them what HD is, how to properly diagnose it, how to help people who are diagnosed with it, how to give them all the things that they need to fight it, how to have kids that are free of it, all of the stuff that we found out on our journey. We go in and we set all this stuff up. It takes about $8,000 a piece. And every year we, have made 30 grand or more. And that means we've been able to build a heck of a lot of centers for excellence with Heroclix for Huntington's, and we aim to continue doing that going forward, as well as, give some money to try and find the cure for it. So sorry about the long-winded thing, but when you ask me about it, I guess I have a lot to say.
No, that's what we wanted to hear, yeah, because I don't think enough people do know about it. So just getting a little bit more of a background of it, I think kind of helps, people get behind it. So I think it's awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that. Is there anything else that you wanted to
Thank you for giving me the platform to do it.
Oh, absolutely. Is there anything else that you want to add before we get into a breakdown of the event?
No, I mean, I think at this point, I think I said over the first, 4 years, we've made 30 grand or more every single year. The first was in the midst of a pandemic. The second was held during a time when people were very hesitant to go back and get in person. And we did it. And the next 2 years we're in Alabama, and I know it's in Huntsville again this year, and it's a tough road for people to get down there, but this community shows up time and time again. And this has become such a positively affecting force in my life for me. It has tied, it has tied something that's very difficult for us to deal with, and something that brings me such incredible joy together. And now I have this really cool kind of relationship with it where, as rough as it is, there's a positivity to it, and I couldn't do it without the community. And we keep on proving that, this amazing spirit that this, and fellowship that this community has just is unmatched out there. So that's all I wanted to say. It's such a cool event, and for everybody that's come down in the past, for everybody that's interested in coming down in the future, I just say thank you so much for thinking of us and for taking part every year. And I'm so excited to give you guys a breakdown of what we got going on this year.
Yeah, it's like a special
Just before
time.
we get into the breakdown, I just want to say thank you, Scott. That's a powerful story. We love the community. That's one of the reasons we do the podcast and everything else. And there's not a time I'm more proud of this community than during this season. So, thanks for sharing that. That was awesome.
Yeah, it's always really cool to see the community come together this month. What do you want to break down first? Just go down the days with starting with Wednesday?
Yeah, man. The cool thing about our event, I think, is that we have a partnership. It's Rock and it's Heroclix for Huntington. So the initiative is, our big events are, battle royals all weekend long. And then our two big days are Friday and Saturday. But we also know that outside of the charitable element of it, we also have a lot of people who are fighting for placement in, the Rock World Championships. And it's just such a cool thing to have these two things tied together. So Wednesday night, I think I mentioned another amazing woman. I've talked about my wife, but Tracy Brock is somebody that without her, this whole entire weekend does not exist. Without her generosity and her brilliance of spirit, we're not here at all. It takes a lot for somebody to go through something and say, okay, I've done it. And instead of going, all right, I'm moving on, I'm going to be selfish with the rest of my life, to say, okay, how do I spin this and now help other people? And her and Howard did that. So Wednesday night is our welcome event. It's awesome. It is so much fun. We play with a bunch of old pieces. It is a team sealed event, the Tracy Brock Memorial. We have Tracy Brock immortalized, holding her favorite pet, dressed like Wonder Woman, looking like a badass. The trophies go out to the winners. And it's just a really fun format. It's a booster draft, like I said, of old pieces. So pieces that you've forgotten about, really. Like last year we had Tabat pieces being played with, which were like the big bobblehead versions of Heroclix, like Iron Man and stuff were on the map. And he's just got a giant head and you're like, where is this giant cranium Iron Man even from? And that's the kind of thing we get into. The pricing, just as you'll hear throughout the entire weekend, is fantastic. But the cool thing here is you get a piece of Howard's heart. You get a piece of our event's heart if you win with the Tracy Brock trophies. And it's just a lot of fun. We all get together. We just have a good time. And it really is like a welcome event like no other. So that's Wednesday night. The event starts at 7 p.m. For anybody who does get down there early. It doesn't go too late, but it's a blast. Like I said, teams event, 300-point teams with pieces that you probably haven't used in a decade. So who knows what we're playing with this year, but it's a super fun event.
Yeah, I got to do that last year, and it was a lot of fun. It was like Lord of the Rings pieces, I think. Teen Titans was another set that was out there. Miles, do you remember any of the other ones that we played with?
Oh, Galactic Guardians, I think it was. Or
Okay.
Guardians of the Galaxy. And then Legion of Superheroes, because I remember, the winner ended up pulling the dark side.
That's right. Okay.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. Things are fun until you're sitting across the table from Darkseid with a bunch of crap you don't
Well, again, it
know
was
about.
400 points, so you got to play him at full with some support, as if he needed it.
Yeah, it was a pretty crazy event, though. That was stuff that like came out before we started playing, so that was really cool to be an event where you could actually just field those pieces, and it wasn't overpowered by a bunch of other stuff.
That's the best, man. That takes me way back to the old style pre-releases where there just weren't any spoilers out there. There just wasn't any, you just showed up in the food court of a mall with 200 other people. And you just like sat down and said, I don't know what we're getting into for today. All right, let's see. And that's how they kind of used to do Worlds too. Like I remember playing in Philadelphia with Ultimates before they like previewed the set at all. And that set was insane. You didn't know, I think they had spoiled Ultimate Thor. Or no, they had spoiled Ultimate Iron Man, but they hadn't spoiled Ultimate Thor or any of these other pieces. And we're just pulling them. And, the World Championships used to be sealed. And if you got through sealed and you got to the top 64, then you could do constructed. So those events were incredible. And that's kind of what this takes you back to. And it's so hard nowadays to get that feeling. So the welcome event is one of the few times you would get that kind of feeling and everything. And I think I mentioned, the Heroclix for Huntington's component being just a part of things here. Every entry fee, a portion of that goes to HDSA, but this is also a rock event. So if you're low on points and you haven't fully qualified for the Sunday event yet, big part of the prizing here is a lot of the rock point cards that you need to be able to qualify. So on top of having our normal, like really great prizing, all the promotional figures and limited edition and exclusives, you also are playing to get yourself into, the big boy tournament on Sunday. So just for everybody out there listening, a lot of these events are going to run dual purposes, and this is one of them.
Mm-hmm. All right, then what about Thursday?
Thursday is our first time ever running a supercharged sealed. Actually, this format came out after our event last year. So less than a year old, supercharged sealed, and we haven't been able to really run one of those yet. This is, the split here is 50-50. WizKids provided all of the prizing, and Howard, bought all of the product that we're going to be playing with in this one. So really, really cool. Great opportunity to help the charity as well as just get people playing and something that has become a very fun format for people. I think, for so long people were begging to be able to build bigger teams in the, WizKids sponsored seal tournaments, and now you get to, right? You get 400 point team using 2 boosters from one set and then another booster from a secondary set. So for people, and I hear this all the time, that don't have venues near them that run events as often as they would like, the supercharged sealed may not be an event that they have even had a chance to play yet, unless you go to some of the big boy tournaments or the big cons. So this is just another place that you can get to run this format. If you haven't had a chance to yet, definitely sign up. Event starts at 11 a.m. and we'll be running all day at the new venue that we're at that does have air conditioning for anybody who was there last year fighting through the heat. We have officially have air conditioning this year.
Brutal.
And and the prizing for this is awesome. I think for anybody who watched the live stream that I did with WizKids on their official channel, this is where you'll start seeing some of the Daredevil and Electras and the Joker fishes and some of the things that we're doing exclusively here. But you also get the Rock Points cards, and there's maps in here. There's a ton of really cool prizing for this. The winner gets a Smash and Destroy retail chase booster, as well as whatever they pulled. So the prizing is on par with things we've done in the past, and like I said, 50% of every single entry fee goes directly to HDSA. Which is awesome. And Thursday is also the day that we start the rock and rolls, the battle royals, and 50% of every single seat at every single battle royal table goes to HDSA as well. So we've got a ton of stuff kicking off on Thursday, and it's going to be really fun. I'm going to try to play in the super sealed. I haven't had a chance to play in that format yet, so I'd love to. So if I get all my other responsibilities under control, maybe I'll jump into that tournament as well.
Yeah, I was going to ask you if you've had a chance to play in one yet, because they are still pretty new, and I really have not seen many get played except for like the major events, so it's still pretty rare. Do you know?
Yeah, I haven't had the chance. I think they're still figuring out like prizing and how to do this outreach, and there's specific things they're trying to hold for supercharged sealed versus regular sealed tournaments, and then constructed days. And so I think WizKids I love that they're trying these new formats. So, but yeah, I know I haven't had a chance. What were you going to say?
So usually it's two boosters of the newest set and then one booster of the set before that. Do you know if it's going to be two boosters of Smash and Destroy and one of Spider-Verse? Have they said that or set that up yet?
This is where it comes into play with Howard and Aaron and the rest of the judges crew. I don't make the calls on all of the product stuff. Howard is purchasing for this. So I don't know if he has officially announced what that second set is going to be. I know there were some concerns, Smash and Destroy and Spider-Verse playing together, how it does. So I don't know if it's going to be that or collectors. I believe that our goal is Smash and Destroy and Spider-Verse, though.
Okay, very cool. All right, and then that'll bring us to Friday. What is planned for Friday?
Yeah, Friday. Now we're getting into the Heroclix for Huntington's. Every single entry goes directly to HDSA. This is the first of our 2 exclusive events for the Heroclix for Huntington's initiative. This started out as, for anybody that did our virtual event, the Scott Porter Invitational was a singles tournament, and it was all done online, and we had a theme. You had to have 2 members on your team that were family. And as we started to play forward in future years, the theme became less of an emphasis, and we figured out a different way to kind of do the family element, and that was to make it a 3v3 team tournament. And we did Silver Age last year. This year we're doing Modern, and it's a 3v3 teams format, 400-point Modern Age, Extreme Highlander. The rules and the exempt list are all going to be up for you guys to find at heroclixforhuntingtons.com. But this event is a ton of fun, and where we find a lot of the exclusive and unique prizing that Heroclix for Huntingtons has that really nobody else offers. And that is to create a map, to pick a to pick a legacy card, and to create a bystander. Those are the prizes that you'll find here in this tournament. The pricing this year outside of those unique prizes is better than we've ever had before. In years past, we've had factory sets for the winning team, but they had to kind of draft out of it because we only had 1 factory set per team. This year, everybody on the first place team gets their own factory set. Everybody on the fellowship winning team gets their own factory set. Everybody, in second place is going to get their own factory set. And if you think about that, that's 9 factory sets that are going out for this one team's event, which is kind of crazy.
That's huge.
On top of that, we've got retail chase boosters from Smash and Destroy. This is where you'll start seeing the Scott Porter design map for this year, which your son would be happy is a Rivals-themed map. We call it Rivals Respawn. It has specific map rules about, if you take too much damage, you respawn. If you fall in the lava, you respawn. And I think there's a lot of really cool and unique things that this community is going to figure out how to utilize that map for, and I'm very excited about it. We have a main Rivals Respawn map, and then we have what we call Rivals Respawn Legendary Edition, which is the variant map that you can win in this event. And it has a gold border. Star-Lord has, his insignia over the Hydra logos that are around the map, and has spray painted Legendary on the floor, and has really just busted up the place. And it was such a fun map to work on. And so you'll find that in this event as well. But word of warning to everybody out there listening, because I know a lot of people here like to play to win. Fellowship is a huge part of the Heroclix for Huntington's initiative. And the fellowship prizing sometimes dwarfs that of, if you win. First place has great prizing, but fellowship matches it, if not exceeds it. So I always say to all the meta players out there, if you come to win, if you take your shot, you better not miss, because you're not going to qualify for fellowship at that point. Doesn't matter how, great of a competitor or, what we really love in this event as well is we encourage theme. So if you come and you play with some off meta, really fun stuff, while also just bringing like a, just winning attitude, maybe you don't win on the map, but you're just, cultivating this atmosphere of positivity, which is what we're aiming for this entire weekend, you're going to score some fellowship points, even though you might not win the whole dang thing. So if you come to play to win, I hope you do it. And I'm pulling for everybody. But I love that the fellowship aspect is still very apparent and very present in the events that we run throughout the course of the weekend. So I just like to remind everybody of that.
So this was actually one of my not only favorite events of the weekend last year, but I think of all of the events that I've gone to over the last few years, this style of format where you're working with your teammates to actually like build 3 teams, not just sealed, I thought was a ton of fun. So this is my favorite event of the whole weekend.
Yeah, and it's so fun to watch because we have so many top level players that come to this thing. And seeing them all figure out who's in A position, B position, C position, it's way different than it is in sealed, right? Because when you're doing this 3v3 in sealed, like every team's going to pull like 1 or 2 like just massive pieces, right? And they just slot them all into A. Well, here there's little surprises in each lane. So watching the gamesmanship as well of who's sitting in what seat, who's playing against each other, like there's a lot of really cool things that this event affords us. And I think a lot of people share the same sentiment that you had. So I'm glad that you had so much fun last year, and I hope that we can, outdo it this year.
And I will say another, like if you're competitively playing this in an event, when you're building just the 300 modern, you kind of want answers to like all these different things that are going on. At some point when you're building for this event, you just kind of hope, there's a 33% chance that you're going to go against something, and you just hope that that's not what you go against, and then you just build accordingly. So yeah, this is a fun one. Now, are you going to be able to play this one?
We've done.
Oh, sorry.
We've done. Oh no, this is one I don't ever play in because this is a day I'm walking around. I have to be very active in checking in with every table, seeing how every team is playing, and really this is a day for me to just say thank you to so many people. If I'm in the event, I can't do my job as a voice for fellowship, as a voice for the players that are all there, as a voice just to keep everybody upbeat and keep everything going. And then every now and then I'll hop into battle royals because it's also a chance for me to sit down with different people, maybe who have dropped out of the event, who have come to play in different events and aren't really taking a part of this one. So it's a way for me to kind of, get to spend time with everybody. But if I'm playing, I'm only spending time, with the player across the table from me. So this is a big day for me to be able to get around the room and say thanks to everybody. So just a question though, because, on our side, we're constantly evolving, constantly checking in with the player base. So, in the past, we've been running this as a Silver Age event. Modern this year, does that excite you, or is that something that,
so
do you wish it was silver, or do you excited that it's modern?
They both have their perks, right? So you're going to see way more creative builds in silver if you go that route, but in modern, you're going to have to play stuff that you just would never think of fielding, and that's also cool because there's a lot of pieces when you open a new set, you're like, yeah, maybe I'll play this someday, and then you just kind of put it in your box and it never really makes a team. But when you're doing something like this, this is the perfect time for it to come out. You have to play something that'll fill that spot that maybe one of your teammates is already playing.
I also think that the Highlander changes that scheme too, right? Because you're limited in what you can build with because you're trying to spread the modern pieces out between 3 different teams.
Yeah, the Highlander's a must.
Yeah, so I think that changes the dynamic quite a bit as far as that. That's what makes it interesting for me. Because obviously, if it was just regular modern constructed, you could just see a lot of the same. But being Highlander between the 3 teams makes that where you're definitely going to get some unique stuff on teams just because it's like, well, this will work in place of something else, and they might go with it, which is really cool.
Yeah, it's cool because, this year we were looking at how do we, juice up the creativity of this whole thing. And we figured that by shortening the board, we could actually see some more creative teams. So I'm glad to hear you guys say that. That was kind of our goal this year. Last year, silver was more, was a fresher thing, you've been seeing silver, and then you see pulp, and so we've been seeing a lot of iterations, and we've seen WizKid take some chances on new formats, and we love that, and we've been trying to lean into those things a little bit. But this year we thought, well, why don't we reverse field and see if we can't juice some creativity into it by going modern. So I'm glad you guys are seeing that, and I can't wait to see what teams are going to start popping up on tables for that Friday event.
Same, yeah. Before we move on to Saturday, I do need to ask. So I'm a huge fan of neoprene maps. I pretty much have multiples of many of them. Has there been any play testing with the special rules for this the Star-Lord map?
What I can tell you is I go through a pretty long process with WizKids to get all these things approved, and there are a lot of people who get eyeballs onto it, and I'm suggested to the same. I mean, I am subjected to the same form of playtesting as the other game elements that you see make it to market. So, however you judge that playtesting is how you judge it. So, there are some things that come out broken. There are some things that don't. I think this year, what we wanted to do with this map and what we've wanted to do the last couple of years is really kind of lean into pulling things from the past and putting them back into play in modern Heroclix. And when theme teams kind of got obliterated by some of the new rule stuff, we definitely went down the road of, okay, how do we bring theme back to the spotlight? And it was the Scott Porter figures, and I think you probably would have asked me the same thing a couple of years ago that you're asking me about this map. Was there any playtesting done with those guys? You pull your answer from wherever you want. He only got a year on the map, so I don't know exactly where this one's gonna go. But what I do love about it is it harkens back to an older time when WizKids was creating maps that had special rules on them, and everybody was testing them out and trying new things and using their imagination in different ways. And anytime that we can spark that, kind of air of nostalgia, but also still do something that feels fresh, I'm going to jump at that every chance I get. Something I really glommed onto was when we did our behind the box or behind the booster video with some of the creative team, Brian and John over at WizKids for Spider-Verse this year. John said, surprise and delight is something that we aim for with every set. And I didn't know it, but I think that's something we've been aiming for with our event every year, whether it's through the bystanders or through the prizing or through the maps or through, the different themes that we want to run, for the tournaments and everything. I think we've been able to do that every single year. And I think Ice Lake actually, last year was a fun pop, and I saw it getting played at some bigger cons, and I saw some teams really love that map, and I still think there's things to be explored on that one, and I think we're going to be seeing a lot of players explore the Star-Lord map as well. So, we did make specific rules though. One thing that we ran into when we were playtesting this map was because the respawn rooms are such that, especially if you're playing a battle royal on this map, you're spawning into a space where somebody else may have started. We didn't want immunity to follow you. We didn't want anything, from taking clicks of damage that, grant you any form of immunity or anything along those lines, whether it's first turn or whether, it's another game effect or power. So the lava does strip you of those things. So when you repopulate into another person's respawn room, you are free game. So it's going to be really interesting to see how it happens. But yeah, I mean, this map is going to be one that I think the community is going to tinker with, and it's going to take a minute to crack. But that's the kind of thing we love to try and do. If you're not taking chances, you're really not. If you're not taking big swings, then what are you even doing at the plate?
Absolutely.
So. Yeah.
No, I'm super excited for this map. Yeah, like I said, I have a huge neoprene map collection, so anytime we get to add more, and this one sounds like a ton of fun. All right, so now going to Saturday, this turnout was insane last year. Do you want to go into Saturday?
Yeah, Saturday is the Scott Porter vs. the World tournament that I actually do play in. This is our sealed tournament. This is our bread and butter. 100% of the proceeds go to HDSA and the Heroclix for Huntington's initiative from this event every single year. Last year, we had over 100 people in this tournament. Couple that with the fact that you can mulligan in this tournament to try and get, the team that you're really looking for, or the piece that you're really looking for. People have always wanted to win this thing for pride as well as for the prizing, which got even better this year. In years past, you were just getting a booster of the set that we had played with. And it was pretty special because the last couple of years we played with a set that was yet to release. This year is a little bit different. It wasn't actually supposed to be that way, but if you watched my Heroclix unboxing series, you were hearing me say for Smash and Destroy, mid-May pre-release, late May release. So it's kind of going to coincide with our event. But with the uncertainty in the world right now, and I do not envy WizKids at all. They have to make a ton of decisions on the fly to say, how do we get product in the hands of our players before the world shifts again to a place where we can't even get the product, right? So they were busting their asses to get Smash and Destroy here. It got here early, and they said, you know what? Let's just get it out. Let's just get it out into players' hands. So this year, it's going to be really exciting for me because we're going to be seeing people play with a set that they're actually accustomed to playing with. The last couple of years, it's been really interesting because people were playing with pieces they'd never seen before. Right. So this year, now we're going to get like that more true kind of sealed effect where people are playing with a set that now they're really familiar with. So how does that affect mulliganing? How does that affect, all of this other stuff? Who knows? But this is the most fun tournament I think that we have all weekend long, just because of the sealed aspect of it, right? You're not going to be necessarily sitting across from meta at every single table, right? And there's something that's very, very fun about that. On top of that, I play in this tournament. I'm going to be carrying bounties around on my back, whether those are iconic sets or limited edition figures or, some of the special stuff that we only have for this event, the bystander token, all of these other things. I will be, carrying a bounty around on my back. And a lot like a poker tournament where, certain heads of tables have bounties on them. And if you knock them out, you get all of their, extra prizes as well as their pot. Same thing with me. If you beat me, you get whatever's on my back. You get the bounty on my back. And a lot of people have won a lot of good prizes that way. So, sealed is my favorite format. I wish I had time to be as constructed leaning as I used to be as a player. But nowadays, I'm lucky if I get a Saturday to pop into my store and play. And, sometimes even if it's a constructed tournament, I'll just buy boosters and build something and jump in anyway. Just because I love to play the game and see how new pieces work. And that's what we do. Now, for the prizing for this, the winner, instead of just getting a booster, the winner of this event is going to get a Lantern Legacy Factory set. That the goal of WizKids is to mail out to the winner during the pre-release window of Lantern Legacy. But even if that doesn't hit, even if they can't fulfill that request, they are sending it out the week that the set releases. So whoever wins this tournament is getting a factory set of Lantern Legacy,
prize.
as that set is releasing, which when you think about it, like factory sets of these sets, they don't make it into the wild for months actually as prizing normally. So to know that you've got that whole thing on lock, that is a big, big prize. And whoever gets second is getting a case of Smash and Destroy, and the top four are all getting chase boosters for Spider-Verse. So, I mean, the prizing is off the charts, just as it normally is. And in this event, you can also win that map that you were just talking about. The Scott Porter Rival Respawn map goes to the top 16 here. The Phoenix Heroclix for Huntington's Bystander that I know the whole community is on fire about. Again, don't mind the puns. The top 32 in this event get that. So, there's a ton of stuff going on. And one of the pieces that is premiering with us this year, like we're now a part of kind of the convention cadence where they're actually using our event to launch 2 new figures. The promotional figures that we have are Daredevil and Elektra, which is going to the top 16, and we have Jokerfish, which is going to the top 64 in this event. So prizing is through the roof for this, but the real reason to play is just the fun of what Sealed brings with it. And like I said, every single dollar here, whether it's your initial buy-in, your mulligans, your charity probs, which everybody gets 5 a match. They're $1 a piece, so an extra $5 a match. You get 5 probability controls that play like theme probs that you can pretty much use anytime you want. And every single dollar goes to HDSA. It's our second largest moneymaker for the cause. So this event, if you can only play in one, I say, make sure you're there Saturday playing this thing.
Yeah, the turnout last year was crazy. My favorite thing with these is always just to see like what makes cut. The most crazy thing I think last year was we had 2 Phoenix Wolverines in top 4, and they both got kicked out. I think maybe Miles would remember this, or maybe you remember this too. I think Titania kicked one out from Disney Plus.
Yeah, and then Man Thing.
Kicked the other one out, right?
And Man Thing.
Yes.
It was a crazy top 4.
It was nasty. That was
And then
awesome
Man
to
Thing
see
ended up winning
because, yeah, Man Thing took it home, man. And that was awesome to see because I think it was the year prior, or maybe it was 2 years prior. It was like, Odin Allfather, basically, just there was no beating Mike Holloway. He had, the gold-plated Odin, armored, massive piece. And I actually made it to the Final Four that year before losing to him with a piece like Crusader.
That's
which, to me, again, when you're looking at these sets, you're like, wait a minute, how did Crusader make top 4? But that was the whole backbone of my team.
Mm-hmm.
And I made it the top 4. So anybody can make it all the way in. I think last year, if you're looking at that and you're looking at all these, different, tentpole pieces all over the place. And last year's set, had a lot of heavy hitters. And to see Man Thing be the one that takes it all home. It's just so cool. That's what this event's all about.
Yeah, that's my favorite
piece
part.
is badass anyway, but you know what I mean. Yeah.
All right. So what about
sorry. Before we move off of Saturday, one thing we haven't talked about yet is the auction.
Oh yeah.
And I know you've won a ton of shit in the auction.
Yeah, a few things.
That's putting it lightly, but yeah.
A few things. And the cool thing about the auction is, there is just a ton of really good stuff, and some of it is stuff that a lot of people have a hard time getting a hold of. So I know a lot of people are, like I said, worried about the Phoenix bystander this year. We're going to be flooding the auction with those, and we're going to have just a ton of things in the auction. The maps that we've been talking about, all of these pieces. We have, I think 9 factory sets this year. We have an entire set of bystanders from each of Spider-Verse and Collector's Trove. They gave us a roll each of these, so we're going to be auctioning each of those off individually. So if you're missing any of those, which I know people have been like searching high and low for, we're going to have those in the auction as well. So a lot of really cool stuff that's a little bit harder to get your hands on, we're going to have in the auction, as well as some really cool things. And this is the awesome thing about our event. It's starting to stretch beyond Heroclix. Like, people are saying, wait, how do I help with your event? So the entire God of War cast, including both the original Kratos and our current Kratos, signed this poster for me from the original God of War artist. So there's 19 signatures on this thing, and that's going to be in the auction this year. So other things that I've been a part of, we're going to have a cool Marvel Rivals piece, a soundtrack that's signed by me, we're going to have in there. Sideshow Collectibles hit me up and said, hey, we've been seeing you talk about this Heroclix for Huntington's things. It looks like the new Heroclix set has Hulk on the cover of it. We've got a World Breaker Hulk sculpt that is, 3 feet or 2.5 feet tall and, 60 pounds of badass muscle statue that we want to send. And that's going to be in the auction. So the worry that a lot of people have when I'm telling you we're going to have more items than ever in our auction is when we get to closing time at the auction. The last 2 years, Auxit, which is the app that we're using, has crashed. And a lot of people feel like they left some money on the table. I've had other people, quietly come up to me on the side and say, oh, thank God that app crashed because I was in way too deep. I was going to win too many things. I saved some money. This year, we're approaching the auction a little bit different, which is why I wanted to bring it up. We're going to be picking staggered end times for some of the pieces in the auction. So Friday night, there's going to be a big batch of things that close out. And then Saturday, in the last couple of hours of the auction, we're going to have things start to close gradually earlier, which means we're going to have less items closing at once. which means the way the auction is supposed to end is by going into overtime for the most desired pieces and for people that are still like really fighting for that one thing that they were hoping to get, whether that's a Heroclix for Huntington's custom mug or that is a Become a Switch Clicks, those items will still be able to be going properly as they're supposed to through the app into this overtime phase where you have 60 seconds to bid. And if you decide to bid, you extend it another minute. And it's kind of like, it's like an old Clint Eastwood, Western. You're staring down the cross, the alley from your fellow bidder going, are you going to do it? Are you going to do it? Here's 60 seconds. All right, I'm just going to watch you. All right, what are you going to do? And we're hoping to be able to reach that feeling again. We haven't had that the last 2 years after having it the first 2 years. So we're going to be batching out things differently. So when you start to bid on things in the auction, make sure you pay attention to when those items close. And the other cool thing about this is the app isn't built for you to have like 10 things being bid on at once and easily find them. That's one thing that they're really looking into and hoping to build out within their app. But I mean, eBay's not like that either. I mean, if you have 10 items closing at once on eBay, you can't have them all unless you have them up in different windows on your computer. There's not an easy way to like keep track of all these things. What's going to end up happening is if you really want to bid on one item at a time and they have different ending times, you can really just focus on that one item before you move on to the next thing. And then you know what your budget still has in it, So I think this will be very helpful for a lot of the Heroclix community out there that loves to take part in this auction. And I think it's going to be a big hit. So I'm very excited about what we have cooking. And again, I'm only listing very certain items here. If you go to heroclixforhuntingtons.com, you could see the full prize list that we have for this year's auction.
Now, do you know when we might see those items go up on Auxit? Because usually it's like a week maybe before.
It's usually 4 days. That is the max that you can run. Items. So usually you'll see it all get listed on Wednesday, with the goal of ending on Saturday. This year we're hoping to do that same thing. We're just keeping a very close eye. And I got to tell you, Vince and Billy and Katrina, everybody over at Auxit has been testing the crap out of that app. And they are very confident, and we are confident in them, that we're going to have just an incredible auction this year. And for the people out there, and I know there are some that keep on saying, why do you keep on using this app? Why do you keep on using this app? I've done other massive charity events through different auction sites like GiveSmart or DonorView or any of these. You name it, I've probably run an auction on it. They charge you in numerous ways. And we are trying to get as many dollars as we possibly can into the hands of HDSA so it can go to the people that really need the help. And Auxit doesn't charge us a cent. They process everything for free.
That's awesome.
And that is such an incredibly generous thing for them to do. We have faith in them. They have stood by us. We're going to stand by them. And, hopefully this year it goes off without a hitch like it did the first 2 years. And the only reason that it didn't the last 2 years is because we broke it. As a community, we broke it. And that's fucking awesome, if I'm being honest.
Yeah.
So
the staggering of days and times is a great idea. So I'm really excited to see how that pans out. Do you want to...
Yeah, I think it'll be a huge help. Oh, sorry, man. I think it'll be a huge help. Where were you going?
Do you want to go into Sunday, the final day of H4H?
Yeah, Sunday is now not actually H4H. Sunday is your full-on Silver Age World Championship, Rock World Championship. Cash prizes, the whole big thing. Keep in mind, everybody out there listening, Howard does donate a small part of every entry fee here to HDSA. The cash prizes and all of that is coming directly from Rock. This is the big main event for everybody who's been competing in the Rocks all over the country and who really wants to, win some cash money. And it all comes from Rock. And this is Howard's big event. This, for me, this day is when I get to, fill out all the autograph requests for people that have signed items that they win in the auction. If they email me at scottporterheroclix@gmail.com, all their requests for everything that they want signed, I do that all on this morning, and then I jump into battle royals for the rest of the day. So that's what I'm usually doing. Meanwhile, all the sweaty nerds are in the other room, who I am proud to be a part of. The sweaty nerds, by the way. And they are over there. That's meta as can be, and they're playing for big prizes, and that's where you see people like pulling their hair out. That so if you're a fan of like high competitive Heroclix, like this is the event that's going to give you the most juice there. So I step back, I let Howard do his thing on this day, and I make sure that I sign everybody's maps and sign everybody's figures and get everything done that I owe the community. Because this is my day of like giving thanks and gratitude. Because usually by this day, we know how much we made as the initiative for this year. And it's pretty cool. Like right at the end of the auction, we usually know the amount. So this is a day where I get to breathe a little bit more and just bask in just the generosity and awesomeness of this community.
Yeah, that's awesome. Looking forward to the future, what do you hope to see for Heroclix for Huntingtons of 2026?
Yeah, man, doing a figure with WizKids was awesome. I would love to do another one of those things. And, we're hoping to have discussions about that on the other side of this year's event. It seems that every year we are just up against something brand new that WizKids is facing as a company. And the fact that they continue to support us through this event, through the pandemic, relaunching into stores, relaunching into organized play, making that like a really big focal point for them, going to some old cons again that they hadn't been at in a while and launching into new cons like Adepticon. They're still supporting us every single year. And it's just awesome. So, a lot of it is, how do we help them as well as, keeping this initiative all going and what new things can we kind of pitch and where can we go from here? So I'd love to see another figure. I don't know what that figure would look like, but that was an incredible thing. And I feel like the community really loved it as well. Having something that just felt like theirs from this event that they could take into the game. And I know he was all over the place, but those two SP pieces were I think they were fun. For a lot of people, and I know they're everywhere, but we would love to do something like that again. Maybe not something as game breaking, and but something close and something very fun. I know there's been a lot of questions about the future of the location of the event. Look, we would love to get this into a more mainstream city, but with that comes a lot of cost, and there's a ton of overhead that you have to cover. The lowest quotes we were getting when we were looking at maybe possibly moving this to Atlanta this year was $12,000 to $20,000. And if we look at how much money we raise, whether the initial year, which was almost 30,000, or the year that the Scott Porter figure came out, 78,000, even looking at like the 75,000, when you're talking $12,000 to $20,000, I mean, you're taking a third of what we're, damn near of what we're making for this charity. And when we talk about a center of excellence costing $8,000, like that's a center and a half at the lowest,
right,
that we are giving away just so we can be in an event hall in Atlanta. So would love to continue searching out and seeing if a game space somewhere else that's a little more metropolitan makes sense. We are so thankful that everybody makes the trip to Huntsville. I know it can be a tough place to make it to, but there's something really cool about that town as well. Being there for the last 4 years, I've really come to enjoy it. It's an artistic town in the South that you wouldn't expect. There's lots of great food, and I dig the town, man. It's a bunch of rocket scientists and artists that live there. It's where all those people go in Alabama, and it's like a really cool little community. So, we're going to continue to look how do we grow, how do we move this, but really, WizKids supports us, but Howard and I, we muscle this thing through every year, and so thank you to the judges and thank you to everybody that volunteers their time. But we're just looking to just be here next year, and everything else that happens around that is just a blessing.
Yeah, for sure. So we are kind of known for our listener questions. I did put up a post this morning, just trying to get some. We can kind of speed around these. Do you have time to go over them?
Yeah, actually, my I had a deadline because I was gonna have to put the kids down to bed, but my wife ended up canceling her plans tonight. So now I'm a big winner, and I get to
right.
spend more time with you guys. So
That's awesome.
thank you,
So
Kelsey.
we're the big winners.
Look at
Yeah,
this.
she's the true hero.
Yeah. So
She
yeah,
is the true hero.
tell her thank you.
I will. I will.
All right, so first here we have Chase Debert. Is there any way to donate things for the auction, either in person or online, that would be the best way to, or what would be the best way to do so?
Yeah, we have plenty of people who, aren't a part of, our staff or, WizKids or anybody that want to offer stuff. Just hit me up at scottporterheroclix@gmail.com. And, whether you want to hold on to the item and you want to take photos for us and get us all the information so we can list it properly, and then, just mail it out from your place to the winner, those are options. But yeah, we've had people, like I said, this year, we had people that I didn't even knew about my event reach out to me. Like I said, Sideshow Collectibles was like, hey, how do we give? We got a statue. We think it would be awesome for this. And we notice you've been posting about this, so we want to give. We have, creatives in our little community, like, Craftworks and Jeremiah Peterson, who do really cool stuff. They donate items of their own to the auction. So anybody that has anything, and we've had some figures donated from the past as well. So some of the bigger ticket LEs that we had 2 years ago came from a player who wishes to remain anonymous, who sent a bunch of stuff down from Canada. So, if you want to help, please reach out. scottporterheroclix@gmail.com. And I'm sure Howard has his information up online. You can reach out to one of his 1,000 emails that he has. So
Awesome. Well, there you go. And then his second question is also, does the legendary Scott Porter play Marvel Rivals, and what are his favorite characters to play? Would love to potentially see a play Marvel Rivals with Scott item on the auction.
Oh, that's a cool idea. Man, holy shit. Just like now you'd like rock the old brain box here. I've started doing signings with some of the other Marvel Rivals cast, and they play as well. So Daniel Marin, who plays Namor, and Jordan, who plays Adam Warlock, and Elia, who plays Winter Soldier, they get online and they stream on Twitch. They go into lobbies and play together, and it's kind of funny because they're three voices of the characters who are just jumping into random rooms with people. And they're like playing with he's like, I think I kind of sound like Winter Soldier, and they're like, no, I think he sounds cooler than you. It's like, meanwhile, Elias like literally the dude playing. That's a really cool idea. Let me see if I can figure out a way to do that. But yes, I play Marvel Rivals. I am not a great tank, but I like to play with Magneto. I always request the Scarlet Witch to go with that. I haven't played the new season yet, so the new nerfs and buffs, keep in mind I'm speaking outside of those particular instances, but a lot of times I get pushed into support. I love to play as Rocket, and I do really enjoy Warlock as well. If I'm playing DPS, I'm usually going to be just doing area control with Namor, or poke in and out, try and take down some support on the back end with Star-Lord. So those are kind of the characters that I play with the most.
Okay. Yeah, that would be an awesome way to get another auction item up there. That would probably go pretty high.
Yeah, that would be really cool. I got to figure that out. Maybe even the guys, maybe the other voices would want to jump in too. We'll see.
That'd be huge. All right, so next we have Paul Cote. His first question is, what is the best restaurant near a common Heroclix location?
Oh my God. I don't even know what a common Heroclix location is anymore. Like in LA, we have 2 venues that run Heroclix. It's kind of crazy, right? But I do want to give a shout out to the old Lucky Dice Cafe, the area that it used to be in Huntsville, right across the strip mall that it used to exist in, is the dopest donut shop, Bigfoot Donuts in Huntsville, Alabama. I know we're going to be like 20 minutes away from there this year, but you better damn well be sure that I am going back and getting myself some trays of little donuts from Bigfoot Donuts. So that's who I'm going to shout out. That place is incredible.
Yeah, somebody very generously brought a whole, 24 or whatever to Lucky Dice on maybe Saturday or Sunday morning last year, and yeah, they were really good.
Oh, that was me. I
Oh.
brought 8.
Okay.
I brought 8 of them. Yeah, like 8 trays of donuts. Yeah, I love that store, and yeah, I just want everybody to try them. So
Yeah, they were
my
great.
favorite is the peaches and cream. Ooh, the peaches and cream donut. Oh, yes,
That one I
let's
did
go.
not have yet. That one sounds good. And then his second question is it just me or is Heroclix product coming out too fast right now? Have you been able to savor and enjoy it at the pace it currently is?
Oh man. So I've got 2 kids, 8 and 10. I think I talked about my difficulties building teams, especially with my job and constantly on the road. So I already had a hard time keeping up. This year, and everybody needs to understand, like the way I approach sets is, what's the next title of the next set? Can I see the box art? Okay, I'm gonna start going back and rereading some stories, and I study. I study my ass off for these unboxings that I do. So when we talk about like time enough to savor or enjoy it, it is really for me like I'm already digging into Lantern Legacy. You know what I mean? Like
Oh yeah.
everybody's now playing Smash and Destroy. I'm looking forward already. So I've never, as the unboxing guy, never necessarily truly get to dig into a set if there's, like less than 3 months between the releases. So this year's been crazy. Like Collector's Trove, I studied for, and that one was actually one I got to love a little bit more because I recorded that before Christmas. That was
Wow.
that I recorded that in November, I think. And then they held on to it and did like a little holiday, like here's a little holiday gift, like a little holiday hype gift, and nobody was expecting the unboxing for Collector's Trove to drop in December. And then the whole thing with Spider-Verse happened like midstream for me. Like I was getting ready to shoot the unboxing like the day that like all the things got spoiled.
Oh wow.
And we kind of shifted gears to this behind the booster. And then it felt like Smash and Destroy was right on top of us. So
Right.
it was like for me, I'm just like, okay, I'm jumping into the next one and studying. So I don't get to appreciate HeroClix at the same pace as everyone else because I'm always looking forward.
I think the Lantern Legacy is supposed to be coming out in, I think it's July. So hopefully we do have a little bit of time to enjoy what we have coming out here.
Yeah, but if it comes out in July and then my unboxing series has to,
Oh, yeah.
beat the set by a certain amount of time, that means I'm going to be shooting the thing. You know what I mean? Like we're almost in May. I wouldn't be surprised if they're like, hey, can you shoot this in the 3rd week of May, which is the week of my son's birthday? And I'm like, I don't know, man. I guess so. Yeah.
Oh wow.
So, that's where my timing is for all this stuff. And then I just have to sit on my hands and not share any of the cool stuff that I've already seen with the rest of the community. But I'm under like 1,000 NDAs, so it's all good.
Yeah, you got a lot of reading to do then.
Yes,
all right.
sir.
Next, we have Australia's own Mork.
It's cool though because here's the thing.
Oh yeah.
Sorry. Here's the thing. My wife, there would be no way that I get to read as many comic books as I do unboxing HeroClix if I wasn't unboxing HeroClix. Because it's the coolest thing to be like, oh babe, I gotta read tonight.
Yeah,
I gotta do some research.
That sounds really rough.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Next we have Mork Bird. Scott Porter, our Lord and Savior of Clix Unboxings. Thanks so much for all the wealth of comic knowledge you bring along to your unboxing videos. His first question is, what is your most well-loved and reread trade paperback on your bookshelf at home?
Okay. Ooh. All right. First of all, I want to give a shout out to all of the other unboxers that we have in this community. We all do it differently. And then like even all the podcasts, like everybody like that is giving their time to this game, I just got to give a huge shout out to. And everybody approaches it from a different angle. Mine is the angle of trying to get people who maybe have never picked up a game like HeroClix, but are huge comic fans, to wet their whistle and get them into this world and have them join us in our group of crazy nerds who love this game. And the best way to do that is speak their language and talk to them about all this this comic knowledge that I love so much and share with them, and then say, hey, but we're applying it here in this game of Heroclix. So why don't you jump on the pool with us and play the game? And it's also, twofold to like get all of our people who have come from other games that maybe don't have the same comic knowledge as I do. Like, I find that it's always more fun to play with pieces that you really actually love the stories of. So that's what I do. But then, Dial H has their own thing, and all these guys do their own things, and everybody approaches it a different way. So I just want to give a big shout out, because the stuff they're doing is awesome. And I am so lucky to be a part of just this group of people. So want to give a shout out there first. My most loved and reread trades at this point, Invincible is way up there, and I'm not going to be naming probably many Marvel or DC books, because they have 60, 80, however many years of like, and sure, there are like standout storylines like Death of Phoenix and all of those things, but for me, or Hush, it's like all these like seminal stories that people love so much, The Dark Knight, like all these things, but for me, it's like Invincible is read time and time again. And now, having kids, I think Mouse Guard is probably up there too. Like, I have read Baldwin the Brave, which is a book from Mouse Guard, and it builds out lore. And if you watch my unboxings, I love lore. I love the deep history of characters. And there's a book called Baldwin the Brave in the world of Mouse Guard that it's like 14 different stories that just build out the lore of that world, and I absolutely love it. So those two are ones that I have read and reread. I'd say the one that I read an awful lot though from the Marvel side of it was the first couple of trades of Ultimate X-Men. Was like, so it was such a cool thing for me. I loved that Ultimate line early on. Ultimate Spider-Man, also very, very cool. But yeah, and then some of these stories don't age all that well. So like, Age of Apocalypse was very cool in the 90s. Is it still as cool now? It holds its own, but I think storytelling has evolved, and I think we've gotten out of the other side of the 90s and stuff, and the big action and some nonsensical stuff that, was just there to like be shock and awe. But on the DC side, Blackest Night is fantastic, but the Sinestro Corps War is like where it's at, and the Jeff Johns and Mark Waid Flash runs are both fantastic. So, all right, there. I'm gonna cap myself because I'll talk about comics for hours.
You did bring up a good point though. So let me ask you this: you talked about Age of Apocalypse. I'm a big X-Men fan. Do you think that Age of Apocalypse should be left as is, or would you like to see that revisited?
Leave it as is, man. I think okay, I was just having this talk with a friend of mine. Why are we live actioning every Disney animated film? Like, why are we doing this? Like, what are we gaining? Right? Like, when you read these stories, and I really found this when I was studying for the Wonder Woman set, actually. Like, Wonder Woman 80, like, the character's been around for 80 years. If you go back and read all of these different decades of Wonder Woman, there's something to be taken from each and every one of them. And we don't need to go back and tinker with any of this stuff all the time. And nowadays you have people coming in and putting their own spin on the characters anyway. So why can't we leave Age of Apocalypse alone and just let new brilliant writers come in and put their new spin on these characters that we've loved for years, Yeah. Unpopular opinion, I didn't love Grant Morrison's X-Men run, but people love Grant Morrison's X-Men run. It was, I liked it. It's not my favorite X-Men run of all time, but I appreciate his take on it. Sure. I really do appreciate what he did, and I want more of that. Let's not go and rehash old stories or revisit old things. But I have a feeling that you disagree with me, though.
I just thought that was a really cool line, and I was at a different part. Like, I was obviously very young, and that was one of the things that just seemed really cool at the time. So I was just curious if you think that was something that should be left alone, because there's a lot of things that definitely do not need to be revisited, but I think that was a relatively successful like niche time when it just seemed really cool. So I like a lot of the characters, and I love the X-Men. So seeing different versions, different people are different sides. I just thought it was a very cool time in X-Men.
It is a very cool time in X-Men, but like I'm gonna look at DC here and go, Dark Knights of Steel. Like that was a new, really cool, fresh take on some of our favorite DC characters, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like let's keep on pushing the boundaries and like doing new things with the X-Men, because they're the core reason, like the characters, their message, what they're fighting for. That's why we love the X-Men. So let's keep on seeing it in different, new, inventive lights. So that's kind of where I sit.
Okay. All right, then.
But I love Age of Apocalypse. I want to say that.
Yeah,
but
I'm
I
a
love
huge fan.
going back and reading it because, what I love about it, and this is what I was like driving at, is it's a time capsule,
Right.
and I love those characters in that time. You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
And so I love the nostalgia of that too. Reading and going, oh man, this used to be how they still told all these stories, man. So yeah, I love all that stuff.
Sweet. All right, Mark's second question: has Heroclix been able to follow you much at all into your acting and voice acting roles?
Not really too much. I have gotten people that I've worked with to like fall in love with the game and try and play it. There's a guy named Rob Buckley. He's an actor. He was on iZombie after him and I worked together on Heart of Dixie, and he actually ended up doing the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. unboxing series with me, and because he just like fell in love with the game, and him and I played Heroclix, and I got him into it. Like I said earlier in the show, I got people at like the Universal Monster Show to play it with me. So as far as like getting people to play it, it's followed me in that way. But as far as like the voice acting stuff and everything, no, not really. One of the coolest things though that I ever got to do with the World of Heroclix was a little show that I did with Hyper RPG, and it was all voice actors, and we did like a role playing series of Heroclix games, and we each got to pick characters, and then we had to voice them as we were playing with them, and that was really really fun. But this is something that's kind of just for me, and it hasn't really like spurred me into any work, but it has given me some really long lasting friends, and I've gotten some people to come along for the ride. So
cool. Third question from Mork: there's a good chunk of love for wrestling on this podcast. Are you or have you been a fan of wrestling at all?
So back when I was coming out of high school in Orlando, Florida, I worked at Publix supermarkets, and a couple of my buddies that I was working with were big wrestling fans. So I got into it for a quick second. And, I worked in the front of the house, but a couple of my buddies would work back in the stock room. And I would get on, after we'd close Publix, I'd get on the loudspeaker and I'd just go, "Can you smell what the stock is cooking?" And I would just like say old quotes from back in the day. So I think I'm dating myself to when all of these lines existed. The big old bear paw and all these things, People's Champ, all that stuff. So that was the time frame that I was really like into wrestling. And also they had just come out with like a really great wrestling video game, and that got me into it as well. But
which one?
Since then I've kind of walked away. Man, I think it was like WWE like 98 or something like that. It was like it was one of those. They made
No
like a
Mercy.
leap. Maybe that was it. I think that's
That's like the number
a
one
big
game that
possibility.
even non-fans say that is one of the best games ever.
Dude, fantastic. And so for me, like that was my big time frame when I was into wrestling. Since then, though, I have I do a lot of fantasy football, and me and the Miz have gotten down quite a few times. And that's a guy that actually, I know he could be a bit of a heel, but he's a really good dude behind closed doors and everything. So
He seems
no matter
cool.
what he is in the public eye, he's an awesome guy.
No, I like the Miz. He's cool. Going to question 4: a Scott Porter Pog, 2 Scott Porter LE figures, extremely loved and played extensively. What's your next appearance in game for Heroclix going to be? Probably can't share that, but he did ask it.
I mean, you know what? Like one that I'm interested in doing that I think would be so cool is like Gumball has like a Heroclix figure. It'd be so like this guy. If nobody out there knows what I'm talking about, I did the Masked Singer, and when I did the Masked Singer, They put me in this gumball costume. They called me Gumball. But it was like a Voltron-style gumball machine. It was like this Gundam-style gumball. Like, I don't know how to explain it. But, like, the power set you could put on that guy is pretty rad. So,
That'd be a cool one to see.
But I do think if we do, like, another exclusive figure or something like that, this is where, I've got to gauge the interest of our community because, I do a lot of things that I hear people chat about, and it wasn't my pitch to be in the game. That was WizKid's pitch to me. And WizKid's pitch to me, as far as if we do something along these lines again, they would want to, and I think maybe for legal reasons as well as for the initiative, the Heroclix for Huntington's initiative, they would want it to be based on something else, me. And I don't know if people really want that in the game. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, it's a weird thing to do. But that's their pitch, and I think it's the easiest thing for them to do because I sign off on my own likeness, I sign off on my own things, and they don't have to go to anybody else and be like, hey, can we get the license for this character to do for a charity piece? That's really tough for them because all of those companies, they have their own charity initiatives. They have their own things they want to support, and they don't always lend their licenses to stuff like us. So that's the only reason I think I exist so much.
That makes sense.
The game. So, but let me know out there if players, don't want to see another like Scott Border based thing, like, we'll keep on trying to find new ways that we can get H4H into the game.
No, I think it'd be cool to see that. A different version every year would be neat.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. So ironically, my wife, who does not care about Heroclix or comics, I said, hey, we're actually going to get to interview Scott Porter tonight on the podcast. And she said, oh, Gumball. So you got at least one more fan here with the Gumball Heroclix idea.
Love it. Love it.
Then he closes out with, love seeing the Heroclix for Huntingtons each year. Hope some year I can get out from Australia over to attend in the future.
Oh, that would be awesome, man. I know this year we're not doing the online battle royales, but people, still internationally, if they bid in the auction, like we can get stuff there. But there's nothing like having the community here in person. Like I'm meeting people that I've known, from message boards and stuff for the better part of a decade for the first time each and every year at H4H. So that's our dream too, man. Would love to see you out here.
Yeah, we're hoping to get Mark out here at some point. Moving to Wes Robertson, given that the white and black shirt porters didn't get a full modern rotation, is there any chance of getting a legacy card for either one or both? If they did make a legacy card, what changes would you make to keep them would keep them meta but not as broken?
Oh, this one's short and sweet. No way in hell they ever do a legacy card for Scott Porter. They were like, we're good after a year. We don't need to. You know what I mean? Like, I didn't even know that I was getting retired after a year.
Yeah.
I had zero clue. I was like, 2 months after, I was like, wait, I got retired? Like, what?
I remember seeing that play out online.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they're not gonna. Yeah, they're not gonna do that. That's fine. You know what I mean? It had it stay in the sun, and I feel like I said, it was impactful, and that's all we want to do. We want to do impactful things with this initiative, and that's what it ended up being, and it was fun while it lasted.
Right. Are you familiar with the greatest American hero from the 80s? If so, please tell Ryan that what he's missing, and would you consider playing the title role hero in a reboot if they did?
It's titular.
Sorry, I lost the spot.
Yes. Oh, I'm too old, I believe, to play the titular character of Greatest American Hero. Jesus, I mean, that show came out in like the early '80s when I was like 2-3 years old. By the time I started watching TV, it was like Airwolf was on. So I think I missed the Greatest American Hero boat. I haven't gone back to watch it, so I can't tell you what you're missing, man. What I can remember is like the costumes very much looked like people trying to figure out how to do heroes on TV. They're not. I don't know. They're not what you would hope.
Yeah. Well, sorry, Wes. And then the next one, what was it like recording an unboxing video in a bathroom stall?
Okay, here's the thing, man. Anybody that knows me, that's seen me in real life, especially next to you, Ryan, like flexing and like photos, like I'm always trying to outgun this guy. Can't do it. He's got his pythons are too big. But if you look at that, whoever photoshopped that damn picture that's making the rounds of me sitting on a toilet holding a Heroclix figure, the gut on that guy. And look, you know what? I don't even feel bad saying it because whoever did it deserves it. Whoever's paunch that is not mine. That is Poncho Porter. That is not Scott Porter.
Oh, that could be the next Porter figure right there. Poncho Porter. Just sitting on a toilet. I like it.
Yeah. I think we got a whole iconic set. Gumball and Ponch Porter. Yeah.
It's Ponch, and then the last name is O Porter. Like O'Shaughnessy. Like it's got a O with a...
Oh, yeah.
with the...
It was a pretty good Photoshop job, though.
I mean, AI is wild, man.
Oh, yeah, that was not AI. I know exactly who made that.
I know. I'm just...
He put in some work because he had me fooled for a second. I'm like, what is this? I'm like, oh, man, I can't believe I fell for that.
Did a double take.
Yeah.
Well
done. Who would win in arm wrestling, Scott or Aqua Miles?
I mean, I'm a beast.
Oh, there's footage of Aqua Miles arm wrestling at Worlds. Him and Captain Calder went at it.
Did not go well for Captain Calder.
Yep, 7 seconds. Calder lost in 7 seconds.
Yeah, no, I mean, look, I like to talk. I talk big. Like I play ball twice a week now. My mouth never shuts. I probably lose, but I'll try.
Yeah.
And then Wes's last question.
7 seconds for Calder.
It was not pretty. There's video evidence online too.
It was live streamed at Worlds.
Wes's last question. We did kind of touch on this already. Wouldn't mind bringing it up again. Who has bigger biceps, Ryan or Scott?
I mean, Ryan. I am down to my old playing weight though. I played college football. I'm down to 185 again. So.
Wow, nice.
I'm lean and mean right now.
Yeah. Going to Austin Murray. Hey, Scott and DGen team, what is your all-time favorite comic book storyline you've read?
Oh, man. God, there are so many. There are just so many. But I did love the end of X-Men. And this may just be because of my age at the time. It was like from 13 to 16. The lead up to the Jim Lee relaunch of X-Men in the 90s. No, I was a little younger, actually. Like the end of Claremont's run, pre-Jim Lee, where they were wrapping up all of the X-Men stories that Claremont had built over the years. You have all these disparate stories, and then he starts bringing them all back together. The return of Xavier from the Shi'ar Empire, the return of Magneto from the Savage Land, and all of them coming together, leading into the breaking of Hero Magneto, going into his whole turn, and that relaunch of X-Men in the 90s is such good stuff. Because you have every thread that Claremont ever put out there into the X-Men world that he would spend, and this was before we did 6-issue arcs for every single storyline. We would get 1 or 2 issues with a specific storyline, and he would just leave threads dangling everywhere. And, unlike some other big, huge, stories or, even novels, right? I mean, look at Game of Thrones. We're never going to get an ending. We're never going to get stuff tied up, like in book form. What's going on? He did it. And so for me, like the whole Claremont run, really fantastic stuff. Ultimate Spider-Man, really great. But the one I think that is probably my favorite of all time is maybe the Flash run for Jeff Johns when the Rogues Gallery just became the focal point of everything. So those I'll give those 3, but there's so many. There are just too many books out there that have been fantastic that for me to count. But those are some of the ones I go back to.
Yeah, it's got to be a hard question. For me, I really liked the recent House of X. That kind of got me back to reading actual comics and buying comics every month again. But then going back, I think the original run of Exiles, I was a really big fan of that. So getting some pieces recently.
Oh my
in the
God.
game.
Okay. Yeah, I'll steal your answer. Exiles by Judd Winnick is incredible. And I've talked about it plenty. That's the example. You're talking about Age of Apocalypse. Should we revisit it? Yeah, they did. They touched on it in Exiles in an organic way in a different book that was then pushing the boundaries of how we can see these characters reinvented, right?
Yeah.
Like Exiles is the perfect example, right? Let's keep on pushing like that. Like that initial run of Exiles is fantastic, and I'll stand on that forever and ever. Great pull, man.
Yeah, that one I like a lot. I can always go back to that one.
Yeah, that's if you're gonna just read one series and not have to worry about anything to bog you down, Exiles is gonna be the one. I'm a comic book fan. Like it's hard for me to just pin down my all-time favorite. I do know when I stopped liking comics as much, and that was right when New 52 and Marvel Now started, when they completely reset everything, because I am such a huge fan of comics and comic book lore that I don't like just the fresh relaunch and reset. So that actually got me out of it for a long time. So I'm still like, I like the classics. I got Peter David, like you said, Peter David's Hulk, Chris Claremont's X-Men.
X Factor run.
His X Factor run is amazing. It leads up even when he did the newer ones, and after his original run with the Strong Guy Havoc team. Yeah, Peter David's one of my go-to, and I don't like the serialized like 6-issue arcs. I like the slow burn. So like it's the 80s and the 70s, 80s, and early 90s comics is like that's my jam, because that's when you had Mark Grunwald actually caring about continuity to the point where he would go and talk to the other editors saying, whoa, that doesn't make sense because of this, and this. And that's what I miss the most. I like where it's completely connected and continuity is just like, I'm such a stickler for continuity, so.
Yeah, man, I'm with you on that. I now look at DC as everything as an Elseworlds tale for me now.
Yeah.
And it's fun to a point, and you have some really great stories told. And they're standalones, but they feel Elseworlds, and because of that, the lack of connectivity, it is a little bit like, I'm missing something. I'm just missing just a little bit of something, even when the stories are fantastic. And I think that's why I said like earlier, when it's like the stories that I've read and reread, like Invincible, is a run that I know I can go back and read and will always remain Invincible. Yeah. And that to me is like, it's such a cool thing. It still has that feel of like that old Marvel and DC, because you are in a universe that is built, everything's tied together. And even though it comes to an end at a certain point, like there's so much of it. And I really love it. So anyway, comic
cool.
podcast now.
Yeah. Dan, what's your favorite one?
It's, I guess, 2 of them basically, because they tie together, even though there's like a few years span between the 2. So it's the Mighty Thor, and then the newer run of Thor, post War of the Realms, where he goes through Prey and all of that, and kind of just because they harken back to the Mighty Thor in so many ways, where everything's connected in that sense, and it's a very nice homage to that. Is like, hey, we know this all happened. We're gonna like write that into the story subtly, and you're gonna get hits of that, and that's, for me, that was really awesome.
Now, Scott, we've given...
Thor's a character that's been very well taken care of for a very long time. I mean, there are a lot of, like, all the way back to Walt Simonson, there's just been so many great runs on Thor. So good pull on that, too.
So we give Dan a little bit of crap sometimes about how he's not gotten a lot of really good Thor and Asgardian pieces over the years, and finally seeing some good ones. What is your take on Asgardian representation in HeroClix?
Dude, there's a lot of new surprise stuff that ended up coming out in Smash and Destroy too. So there's a lot of fun stuff going on now.
They're getting love.
Like, yeah, I like that it's reaching a little bit further now. Yeah. It's just always so tough, though. It's like Thor can be one of those characters that it's like press A, win game. You know what I mean? If you
right.
and that's not, but that comes with a cost, right? He's got that kind of like Superman effect, where it's like, okay, I mean, this guy is, he's quite frankly like saved the multiverse on his own multiple times. It's like, what are you gonna, how do we represent him? And so it's a little bit tricky, but I think they're really figuring it out. I do like that Voice Kids is taking more of like a plucking a character out of time kind of thing and saying, hey, this is that moment, or this is this moment. And, they can be as powerful or as depowered as like the particular writer that was had their hands on them at the time. So it's kind of cool that we get at least a wide array of these characters now.
Yeah, definitely.
I will say I loved your portrayal as Heimdall. So you definitely made that character iconic to me personally. When I heard the voice, I was like, I know who this is, and this is great.
Yeah, man, I love playing that character, and I had more fun, I think, playing that character than any character I've ever played before. So I'm glad that you dug it.
Pete, favorite comic book storyline you've read?
Oh man, this warms my heart, this conversation. I cut my teeth reading and learning to read on Walt Simonson's Thor. I got a bunch of them from my uncles, and that was where comics started for me. Chris Claremont's run on X-Men is unparalleled to me. I would go, my favorite ones is Brian Michael Bendis on New Avengers. I would read anything Jonathan Hickman wrote start to finish, from Future Foundation through his version of Avengers. My favorite series of all time was the limited series, though, Planetary by Warren Ellis, which is actually a DC property. I just think that's almost a perfect love story to comics. And to go back to something you talked about earlier, Scott, with the Age of Apocalypse, and I think there can be just stories you leave alone. Like they had a start, a finish, and an end. So if you want to write something after the end, sure, but you don't need to give me 65 offshoots of 6-issue limited series in the middle of them. But it'd be Planetary for me.
Yeah, man, Planetary with John Cassidy on art too, just fantastic.
Now,
100%.
His second question is about Smash and Destroy. Have you gotten a chance to look at more figures beyond what you unboxed?
From Smash and Destroy?
Yeah.
No, I mean, I tune into other people's stuff too. So like I saw the Captain America on Dial H. I was like, Jesus Christ.
Yeah, he's pretty
like,
crazy.
Oh my God. Holy crap. Yeah. I try to avoid spoilers as much as I can. And I know that, so I like to come to these things like kind of organically. And I do the same thing with films, same thing with comics. There's a lot of times that I avoid spoilers that everybody just are like, there's no way you didn't know that was going to happen. I was like, no, I don't watch trailers. I try not to even watch trailers.
It's a good way to go into it.
So, yeah, man.
Do you have 3 figures from Smash and Destroy that you're most excited for?
Oh man. I mean, I think I said like that Captain America is pretty crazy. Mm-hmm. I love that like come and fight me element that he's got going on. I really like the Rhino. If we're gonna talk about like a guy that like doesn't get a lot of like great figures in cliX, I think that Rhino's gonna be a lot of fun. And then I'm like, for me, Arcade, like there's been so many cool stories with Arcade. Like I really want to build like a fun Arcade team. I mean, it's not going to be I know it's not going to be breaking meta. It's not like that Destroyer Prime. It's not like any of these other guys, But But then I gotta give a shout out to WizKids on this. Like the Constrictor, I'm actually like super stoked about too.
He looked cool.
Like to have a really cool Constrictor, pretty damn good piece. So, yeah, I think those guys are some of the ones that I'm kind of eyeing the most that I really enjoyed.
Okay.
In my unboxing and then seeing other people do.
Yeah, I really like the Sinister Syndicate pieces from Spider-Verse. So Rhino's actually on the top of my list too. And then Chase Juggernaut and Chase Magneto. But yeah, Rhino, like you said, he doesn't get a whole lot of love. So I was sad that he was not in Spider-Verse, and I got real excited when I saw him get pulled for this.
Yeah, man, I was super stoked, and I like the piece. So it's fun on both counts. Like the character, like the piece.
Yeah. So. Miles, do you have a top 3?
Yeah, my top one is definitely Bill Foster's Giant Man 2. I love that run in the Marvel 2-in-1 with Thing, and I never thought that we'd actually get this very niche costume of his. So yeah, he's like the main one, just because like I love that entire run of Project Pegasus he was in. Obviously legacy cards, Green Scar, the Red Hulk, Spirit of Vengeance.
Cool. Dan?
My top. This is tough because they snuck so much stuff in here that is like I would say close to me. Like it's a lot of things I've read, but it's probably Freya, just because we've never had the All Mother made. Red Harpy the Prime. I never really touched the Hulk series or like him as a character in comics until Immortal Hulk, and I loved that series. It's very like if you want a good read. Like that is just there's so much depth to it as far as like the undertones of what it covers, and honestly, it's probably the Prime Destroyer, just because the first piece I ever pulled was the old Odin the Destroyer from the Mighty Thor when I first started playing, and he feels like very much just like him light in this day and age. So those are probably my top 3.
Pete, what is yours?
I really think there's a lot to do with Freya. I think she's incredible. I am really looking forward to another Captain Marvel. I like this one a lot. I've liked pretty much most Captain Marvels they have modern. And since we've been playing, they also, with the ones that have gotten legacies, I've really enjoyed. But I think probably that Juggernaut, man. That's Juggernaut, right? Like, here it is. Come fight me. Can you stop the Juggernaut? So I'm most excited about that piece.
All right. Yeah, there's a lot of stuff to like in this one. All right, going to Anthony Barnstable. Scott Porter, I know you said we have gotten too many Icemans recently, but what do you want to see out of a future Iceman in Heroclix? Maybe a version that has never been clixed or a special power or trait that represents Iceman in a way we haven't ever seen before.
I mean, Iceman's Omega level. And, we've had like a couple of attempts at making like a true like Omega level Iceman, but the Iceman that I'm talking about is the Iceman right before Age of Apocalypse starts, or the Ultimate Iceman that freezes half of New York. And those two scenes to me, like the Iceman right before Age of Apocalypse begins, does kind of the same thing. And it's like how scary he can be, right? So we've had a bunch of cool ones. We've had a bunch of great sculpts, but like, all right, fine. Blow the doors off. Let's do this thing. Like stops everybody on the map, right? Like nothing's moving, that kind of thing. I mean, there's not many fresh takes that you can really make on this guy. But that is one that I think we could, those are two moments that I think we could really do.
Yeah, I keep seeing him and I get excited, and then he's another support Iceman. But yeah, just like you're saying, he's Omega level. So let's get just a crazy, just almost break the game Iceman.
Yeah, that's what I'm aiming for this time. Yeah, I mean, if we get him again, we've just gotten him so much, and
right.
And I love him. But if I'm getting Bobby Drake fatigue, yeah.
Scott, now that there are enough different choices, what are your 3 maps for Scott Porter versus the world? All exclusively Scott Porter maps? Which 3?
Well, I mean, I've only made 2 of the new map standard. So, Ice Lake and this map. But I mean, is he asking like what maps would I want to play with in Scott Porter versus the World? The kind of the fun thing of the Scott Porter versus the World tournament the last couple of years is we've also been using a map that nobody's really played on.
Mm-hmm.
Like we use a new map for the set. You know what I mean? So Avengers last year we had like the new Avengers. I'm sorry, Avengers 2 years ago we had the new Avengers map, and Deadpool Weapon X last year we had like new map from that. So I think for me, it's like whatever map people haven't played on yet is kind of the map that I want to lay out there.
Okay.
If that makes sense. I know I'm kind of sidestepping the question, but that's always my goal, is to have it be like we're trying something new. And the comfort level is like kind of a, evens out the field a little bit, and like everybody's learning this thing at the same time. And that's a lot of fun to me.
Yeah. Scott, what are you most hoping to pull in Smash and Destroy during Scott vs. the World event? Now that the pre-release officially started today, so the whole set is spoiled, will you mulligan to try and get those pulls?
I mean, there are some pieces that are just going to win the thing, but that's not ever how I like to play. I've won a couple of tournaments like way back in the day when, and I think I answered this on another interview that I was doing, but like a chase theme that I really loved was when they did, the Phoenix Force from AVX, and you have Namor and Magic and Colossus with the Phoenix Force.
Mm-hmm.
And during the sealeds for that, I or a couple of the events around that, like I was getting Phoenix Forces, and I was just like, I was wiping everybody. And so I would just then donate the prizes back to everybody, because I'm like, that doesn't feel cool. You know what I mean? So that's not exactly how I want to do it. I want to have the pieces like a Crusader that literally Daniel Powell looked at me and was like, you need to mulligan that. I was like, I'm sticking with it.
No, I like stories like that. Give pieces like Crusader a shot, because she was cool and didn't get to shine.
Yeah. So that's what I want to do, is like, because where else are some of these pieces that aren't considered meta viable, but are still like, we have B+ tier figures that never see the light of day because you have to be A or S tier.
Yep.
So for me, it's like, that's what I want to play with. So I do mulligan though, because every dime goes to HDSA. So I'm just donating to the cause. So I did mulligan twice last year.
Then we'll go to Rob Peterson. What is in Scott Porter's cup today?
Oh man, today's a black coffee day. My little girl came home sick from school yesterday. Today is a day off for the kiddos, and we just let them rest and everything. And so I just a lot of cleaning, a lot of taking care of the babies, and a lot of coffee in your veins. Yeah, I saw somebody, they posted something the other day, and it said, you're not a parent until you go to the microwave to heat your coffee, only to find the prior cup of coffee you meant to heat still in the microwave from hours ago.
Oh yeah,
I can relate. Oh yeah, that's the move. So
then he wants to know, can you open or send a gift to me in Pokemon Go?
Oh yes, I'll get you right now, buddy.
Is there any chance, family filming schedule permitting, that we will ever get to see you come to Worlds?
I hope. It won't be this year. We go back to Eugene, Georgia, season 4 in August of this year, which means I'll be in Toronto come September. And I got to reserve the asks for days off for bigger family things and the things that I need to get home for, because I'm away from my family for 5.5 months, unless they're up in Toronto with me, which that'll be during the school year, so they'll be here. So anytime I get off, like, I am flying home, because that's a really tough run.
Yeah, it's got to be hard. If you ever can make it, though, we'll definitely be excited to see you there.
Yeah, man. I mean, I want to go. I've used to go to Worlds when they were at like Wizard World Philadelphia and C2E2 and like these old cons. So I definitely want to get there. This is just an event for us, and it's like I've never been.
Yeah.
So definitely got to get there.
William Day Roker, if Cena can heel turn, anyone can. When will we see the long-awaited Scott Porter heel turn, and what would it look like?
I mean, some might say it's already happened. No, I mean, yeah, no. I've done some heel turns in movies, and maybe that gets it out of my system. You know, I mean, definitely, the Flash and Suicide Squad Kill the Justice League is a heel turn. Heimdall, big time heel turn. So maybe I'm getting them out of my system and the projects that I'm doing. But for now, I'm happy to be like the positive guy at all these events.
All right, then we have Brian Harrell. If Scott were to make your monthly game format an official tournament format, what changes would he make? So you probably aren't familiar with it, so I'll just give you a quick backstory on this one. So every month we get about 7 people over here, and we do like a last man standing match, and we put like 3 to 4 maps together. It's 300-point teams, and usually the build restriction is some sort of like specific generic keyword. So March was martial artist. April, that game's going to be this Saturday. It's animal. And then we have like a storm similar to Fortnite that starts on the outside and then moves in every turn to kind of herd everyone to the middle. If you're in the storm, then you take damage. So you try to kind of move with that. And then we play until there's just one person left. And then we stream the whole game on our YouTube channel. It's honestly the most fun that all of us have each month with cliX. We talk a decent amount here on the podcast. I know there's a few play groups that have ran it now themselves. So back to Brian's question, how do you think you could make that into an event format for an in-person tournament?
Yeah, so I mean, people might not know this, but like the old battle royals kind of worked that way. Like Shock the Turtle thing, like that was always in effect. Like those rules, like the outside of the map would always push everybody into the middle. So that was that element of it. The storm that pushes in was a part of like the old school things. I used to play. Speaking of when I used to go to Worlds, I would go and play in a drunken Heroclix championship, and it was an overnight event. And we would get together and we would have unique builds that you had to do, like you were just talking about. You know, you had to build for martial artist, you had to build for, you know, scientist, or all these different keywords. And we had a drunk judge and we had a sober judge. And and then as certain things would happen, you know, the judges would say, okay, the next step is the next person to roll a critical miss gets to make a rule for the room. And so it kind of plays like Kings, if you've ever played the card game, you know, like the old drinking game or whatever, where, you know, I rolled a critical miss and I said, oh, okay, well, every single person in this room, before you announce what move you're making, you have to say, good sir. And so it's like, good sir, I'm going to move, you know, the Hulk from here to here. It's like you have to say good sir, and if you don't, then you had to take a drink.
Okay.
And so that became a very like interesting thing. So some way of like adding like a rule thing, and like if you don't follow the one rule or whatever, because the list of rules starts to get long, you know, like you'll have like 10 rules in effect at a time,
right?
And if you mess up a rule, like you take a click, or if you mess up a rule, like, or if you guys want, if everybody drinks, if you want to do like a drinking night, like that could be kind of fun. So
yeah,
that's what it reminds me of. And yeah, some of the most fun I've ever had playing click. So that sounds awesome.
Very cool. Dylan Barrett wants to know, hey Scott, what's your most wanted comic run you would love to see in cliX form?
I mean, I think we've gotten like almost all of them. You guys were talking earlier about Hickman. I think his Fantastic Four run is like the top of his everything he's done ever. But we got it. We got that, and we got Future Foundation. So it's like when I look back over time and I see like, I mean, we've got all of the major events, right? For the most part. And we've even got some of the newer, cooler stuff. Like we've got deceased versions. Like we've gotten, you know, Dark Knights of Steel. Like, I mean, we've gotten almost everything.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we have Catgirl from Frank Miller's Dark Knight. You know what I mean? Like we have pieces. Do you guys remember Catgirl? Do you remember her being in the game?
That was before us, I think. At least me.
That before you guys? Yeah, I mean, we have like literally have Catgirl from Frank Miller's run. So for me, I think it'd be like an off-property comic run, right?
Okay.
Like something unique, something really cool. Man, let me think on this and come back to it. Let's keep answering questions, and I'll see if I can't. Yeah.
I got 2 more listener questions, and I got a couple.
You know what? Actually, hold on.
Yeah, you're
hold
good.
on. I okay. So something that would be really cool in HeroClix is there was a book called Wayward. It was an Image property. I don't know if you guys have read it, but it deals with like Japan and like the yokai, like all of their, ghosts and demons and, a lot of stuff that kind of like bleeds into anime and stuff like that.
Okay.
But they have this small group of teens who all have these unique powers that fight against these yokai. And that could be like a really cool element. It's like Japanese ghost stories and like young Japanese superheroes. Like that would be something cool. That would be like a standalone set that could still have some differences versus like the mainstream superhero stuff that we get. And if you haven't read Wayward, really, really cool book. Really cool book.
I have not.
I love that. I love that series. I didn't think not many people read that, so that's awesome.
I'm always down for new properties, so yeah, that sounds like a cool set. Then we have Konstantin Sidvisky wants to know, are you watching the draft tonight?
I was. I didn't realize when I scheduled this thing with you guys, I was like, fudge, that's the first round of the draft, man. So I've now, no spoilers, I'm going to go watch the rest of it that I've recorded. I'm going to sit there and watch for the rest of the night. This is like one of my favorite nights of the year. I like live tweet, or I guess live X or whatever bullshit we're calling it now.
Right.
I like live exit, like on, and I just love mixing it up with like NFL fans. Like I call out every fan base and I'm like, yo, who do you want here? Here's what I think you need. And then somebody will be like this and I'll be like, no, you're an idiot. You don't. And that's like the football. It makes you feel like you're at a sports bar watching the thing. And so it's like one of my favorite nights of the year.
We appreciate you coming here instead. All right.
This is how much you guys mean to me.
Awesome. The last listener question we have is our local tryhard, Ryan Bookwood. So, Scott, how did you get into comics, and in conjunction, how did you discover Heroclix?
Yeah, my dad used to work at an auto shop, and I was a latchkey kid from a very young age. And for people out there, because the world has changed, from the time I was like 6, 7 years on, I had a key on a chain around my neck, and I would go home, walk myself home most days at like 6 or 7 years old, make myself something to eat while both my parents are working. But there were a couple of days a week back then where my dad would come pick me up and take me to the shop with him. And back then, I mean, comic shops were a rarity, and they sold comics on spinners at like 7-Eleven, like gas stations. You would get comics at the, corner shop or whatever. And you would only get, they would never have, sequential ordered books or whatever. So it was getting like haphazard issues and everything. But I would just pick up whatever. And I picked up Spider-Man and, cause he's like an entryway for like young kids or whatever. Mm-hmm. And then I picked up X-Men. And oh my God, like X-Men was just the doorway in. And I talk about this run all the time. It's the first run where Nimrod comes, and it's the Hellfire Club versus the X-Men, and X-Factor is involved because the original X-Men had already broken off from the classic X-Men, and Nimrod, this giant robot that they can't kill, is attacking them. And like Harry Leland does something where he takes Colossus and makes his mass so big that he just puts him down into the crust of the earth. And then Kitty is like, can't breathe. She's like diving through Earth to save Colossus. And I'm reading this book as a 7-year-old going, this is awesome. Like, it was like danger, man. People were Harry Leland, when he did it, he dies of a heart attack. And it's like, I was like, people can die in these books. Oh my God. And like, I had already, like, I read The Hobbit at like 8 years old. And so this is around the same time. And, I thought that like the comic books were just like funny pages. They were like Sunday comics, just in like a bigger format, and like people didn't die, and there was, there's no real danger. And when I read The Hobbit, I was like, this is real danger. And because they kill one of the lead characters in like the end of The Hobbit, and you're like, what? And then when I see this guy die in the page, I was like, this is it. This is it. This is my place. And that's how I got into comics. And I haven't stopped reading since. And it's also like the big part of the reason that I'm like a team guy. I think I was like I was an only child growing up, and these solo stories and solo books like didn't reach me as much as like being a part of something bigger. So the team books always were like my jam. And I've come to appreciate solo books, but team books are that's my number one.
Totally agree with that. Favorite
You weren't
piece-
missing out.
Sorry.
I was gonna say, yeah, you weren't missing out. I have two brothers, and we could never like the same characters, so we had to figure out ways to be the reason why, like, one of us liked Venom and one of us liked Spider-Man and one of us liked Carnage. Like, it was
Not allowed to like the same character. That's
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
wild,
Yeah.
bro.
yes.
Do you have a favorite piece of all time and a favorite team of all time?
Oh man. So some of my favorite teams to run, I am a massive X Factor fan. So I think I talked about like earlier, like when, feats were still in the game, Quicksilver was pretty nasty with armor piercing and having like back, like, was it Supernova or Sinister when like the original like Madrox finally got his due and you had
Sinister.
the rookie experience. Sinister. So rookie
yep.
experience veteran versions of Madrox, and you could run a ton of him on the map at the same time, along with Quicksilver, Havoc, Polaris. Like that was the squad, man. Like Polaris was nice, cheap TK. Havoc did way more damage than he than he should have at 44 points. And so there was like a lot for me, and like X Factor, running X Factor was one of my favorite things to do. And then when the Runaways first came out, that was such a fun team to run because Chase has the leapfrog, so he can Green Lantern the Runaways around. And Molly's a little powerhouse, and Nico Minoru did some really cool stuff with Staff of One. So, and I would go and I would win tournaments with Runaways, and people would be like, they would get pissed. They'd be like, how are these brats beating me? And it's just like they had such a positioning advantage in so many different games. Victor has, running shot, psychic blast, and Carolina did some cool stuff. So I would like go and win some tournaments like with the Runaways, and people get mad. And that was always like one of my favorite things too. It's like winning with underdogs is a lot of fun, and sometimes you can get away with it in this game. But I think my all-time favorite team was back when Ultimates was out. I built a Thor killer because everybody was running this Ultimate Thor, which I know was before some of your time, but I mean, this guy was a beast and could see through stealth.
Oh yeah.
And up to that,
This is during my time as well. So I completely know exactly your era that you're talking about.
So for me, Veteran Havoc, Domino, and then Ultimate Spider-Man. The Veteran Ultimate Spider-Man with the Lamppost and Pounce. And nobody else was running some of these pieces. And I would sit down across a map, having specifically built this team to beat your guy. And they would just not see it coming. And it would work time and time again. And I was running pieces that nobody else would want to run. But it was just pieces that had what I needed. And this was a much simpler time. But pieces that had what I needed. Running shot, high range, psychic blast. I was running like Black Queen, like Goblin Queen. Like it was like I was running stuff that people would sit across and go, how is this beating me? And I'd be like, because it's just honed to beat your one thing. Like you want to show up and win just by like sitting at the table with a guy with a piece like Ultimate Thor. I'm gonna beat you with this team. And so that's my Hall of Fame squad.
Awesome answer.
Yeah, that's exactly how I played back then too. I did those weird squads. The Experienced Radioactive Man was my jam.
Oh yeah. Oh dude, that's awesome.
I did Lamp with him, so I gave him armor piercing and had Lockjaw carry him around.
Oh yeah. Oh Lamp. See, newer players don't necessarily know Lamp, but yeah.
What does it stand for again?
Lockjaw, armor piercing, mastermind, and poison.
Okay.
Yep.
I've heard it referenced a lot, and I always forget what it stands for.
Well, Lockjaw's this awesome thing because back then he was a peanut base, and so you had so much mobile blocking, and you could just lock things down. I mean, that was Armor Wars, right? That was back then?
That was before Armor Wars. Fantastic Forces.
Okay. Fantastic Four, yeah. So these peanut bases were all over the place. It was so fun.
Yeah.
All right, last one from Ryan Bookwood. How do you feel about the state of the game today? What kind of improvements do you think could be made?
Oh man, Um, it's tough for new players to learn how to play this game. And we are running some learn to play initiatives at Heroclix for Huntington's this year. Like trying to teach my kids how to play at home. Like even I almost like don't know where to start.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think more of an emphasis on breaking in newer players in a softer fashion is key for this game. So I think that's it. I don't mind all the iterations and all the new adjustments. I think some of them have been for the better. I think, terrain is tough to wrap your head around if I think all these extra bells and whistles, and it's like, if you're a newer player and you come and sit down and go, okay, cool, there's 6 players on the map, 6 figures on the map, and that's what I'm playing against. And then you look to your left and you're like, are these all your good luck charms? No, these are my 10 sideline figures. And this is like, so there are just so many levels that like a newer player, the barrier to entry is kind of high.
That's a lot.
And, I have the approach in my unboxings of wanting to bring people to this game. And I'm doing everything I can, right? On my side of like trying to get people interested to this thing. But I think we just need that other component of making that entry just a little softer, so that it's not so intimidating. So that's the only thing I would say.
Okay.
I almost like how they do pulp, but I think pulp with the rare figures and them changing a lot of the common uncommons is almost too advanced, to where I'd actually like something like a peasant format where it's just commons and uncommons with no sideline, because that's where you're going to get your simplest figures. And I think that would be the easiest way to teach people, new players, is in a format like that. And then once they do that, then you slowly, you're going to introduce them to pulp, which is going to allow you to do the rares and just you wean them, because like you said, this game is super, it's so complicated even for current players.
Yeah, I'm right there with you, man.
All right, that's all the listener questions we had. I had a few questions I don't think I've heard you answer on other podcasts before, just kind of ones that get to know Scott Porter a little bit better. Are you game for that? We can speed round them real quick.
Yeah, that's fine.
All right.
I don't know who's still listening, but if you are, thank you. We're 2.5 hours in.
We're getting there. Yeah,
this is a short episode for us.
This is a short one. Yeah, we're known for our long episodes, but
awesome.
So it looks like you put a little muscle on since last year. What was your inspiration, and why was it me?
Yeah. No. Here's the interesting thing about my business. It's like the more weight you lose, the better you look on camera. So it's like this weird thing of like, I'm down in weight, man. I think the last time I saw you guys, I think I was up in weight. I think I was like 195 plus, man.
Okay.
I'm down in the 185 range now. It was actually a year and a half ago I got up to my heaviest I've ever been. And that might have been like down in Orlando, actually. I was around like 210, actually. I was up there, man.
Okay.
For me, that's the most I've ever weighed. And so, getting down to 185 again, I'm definitely not bigger than I was, but a little leaner, and then when you put that on camera, you're like, oh, look at this. I mean, some of these guys like Jon Snow from Game of Thrones, that dude's like 5'4", like $130 soaking wet after breakfast. Like, but he looks ripped, right?
Right.
So
yeah. Definitions there.
It's all smoke and mirrors. It's all smoke and mirrors. But I do way more biceps now, though. I'm like, I gotta catch Redmond. I gotta catch this. All right, let's go.
All right, it's good to hear. What does a typical exercise week look like for you, like a routine?
Yeah, man, I'm dealing with a bulging disc in my neck and a torn labrum right now. So I do physical therapy 2 days a week. I do Pilates 1 day a week, and then I train 2 or 3 days depending upon like where I'm at. And I always check in with my body. I'm 45 now, so it's the wear and tear. But then I play basketball 2 times a week as well, so for about 2.5, 3 hours. So just a good mix, man. Okay. Just a good mix of mindfulness. I think that's something that a lot of people lose sight of, is just like being mindful and like listening to what your body's telling you. Because I think like back in the day, like everybody was like, oh, you got to lift heavy 4 days a week, 5 days a week. And that's not actually true. It's
No, that catches up with
recovery is
you.
a huge deal now. So yeah. So that's where I'm at right now. So 2 days PT and 3 days training, or flip that, a couple of days of basketball and a Pilates check-in for just, lengthening and making sure that everything is moving properly. And that's it.
Sweet. Do you have any type of diet you stick to?
Oh man. I love food, but I am a eat to live, not live to eat guy. I don't know if that makes sense to everybody out there, but it was a phrase I heard a long time ago. So for the most part, and my wife is really the reason I think that I kind of shifted, because she shifted a lot of her diet. She wants to be physically healthy as long as she can. So she said, you know what, I'm going to make some adjustments, and and like I said, she's so strong, dude. Like, of mind, of body, of spirit, of everything. And so I kind of approach it the same way. And when you do, like, all of a sudden, when you go have that like great meal or that thing that you love to eat just less often, it's like so much more impactful, So a lot of my daily diet's just, a little protein in the morning, cycle some carbs through, and but my like biggest snack thing is like apples and peanut butter. So that's, it's just basic stuff, man. I eat pretty simple. Protein, salt and pepper protein with some like, steamed veggies, salad, stuff like that for the most part. And then when I want to splurge, I splurge, and I don't even think twice about it, because the rest of the time I'm eating pretty well. I kind of approach it like I heard when Gal Gadot, when she was doing Wonder Woman, her trainer had her on a 17 out of 20 diet, meaning, if you're eating 5 times a day and you look at a 4-day span, 17 out of those 20 meals are health conscious. And then the other 4 or 3 are, whatever you want them to be.
Okay.
And I'm like, if she was doing that and she was Wonder Woman, I mean, she's also got genetics, but you know what I mean? Like, So I kind of try to approach it like that, and it puts you in a really cool state of mind.
Okay. Yeah. It's cool to hear. Do you have any guilty pleasures like caffeine or sweets or anything like that?
Oh man. So I did 23andMe before we had, I don't know my biological father. So earlier when I was talking about my dad, he's my stepdad, but he came into my life when I was 6, and he took me in as his own blood. Like he was the best man at my wedding. Guy's incredible. Shout out Butch. And my mom raised me on her own for those first 6 years, because my biological father like FO'd and got out of Dodge and never came back. And so at any markers or anything, and we were going to have kids, and I wanted to make sure there was nothing I needed to know surprise wise in my DNA. And since I don't know his side of the family, I just did 23andMe. And at the time I was a pretty high soda addict. Like I love Coke. Like if you watch my unboxings, I love Mountain Dew. I love sodas. Like that's like Achilles heel for me. But I get the thing, and these guys have never met me, right? I spit in a vial, I send it in, they have my DNA. I know everybody has it now. I know
yeah.
Hindsight is 2020. Anyway, long story short, way too late. Podcast short, way too late. I get this genetic thing back, and it's like, hey, here's some cool facts we learned about you from your DNA. You have a sweet tooth. It's genetic, guys. Sweet tooth means you have underactive sweet receptors in your taste buds in your tongue. So when you have sweets, you want it in a high sugar volume, and you want it more often because it's like activating. You're like, whoa. It's like when the Hulk gets mad. It's like your tongue gets sweets, and you're like, oh, I must have more. And so the sweet tooth is genetic. So I have underactive sweet receptors, and then I have overactive bitter receptors. So like I have something called the bitter gene, like asparagus, coffee, stuff like that. Tough for me to eat because it's just like they're overactive and everything. Bitter things are very bitter to me, right? Mm-hmm. So I also have a metabolism like burns off like drugs, caffeine, stuff like that. Like, when I say drugs, like prescription drugs, ibuprofen, stuff like that, like quicker. Like there's certain metabolisms that do that. So these 3 things combined, they say you are 94% more likely to drink a high volume of sugary sodas than the average American. I was like, holy crap. It's just my DNA that did it. And so from that point on, I was like, okay, well now I know what I'm fighting against. So force myself to drink like black tea, like unsweet black tea to like get off of the sodas a little bit. And now like I'm a big coffee fan. But it took me a while to figure out which coffees I like to drink and stuff like that, just to get myself off of the sodas.
Yeah.
So still to this day, like my Achilles heel is like at the end of a really hard week, like I just want a burger and fries and a Coke. You know what I mean?
Oh,
so
yeah.
that's the thing.
No, that's great. Music. What about a favorite band?
Police.
Please. Okay. Something that you would like prefer as far as like working out versus like to start your day, or if you're going to go play Heroclix, do you go back and forth, or is that like always your thing? It just hypes you up.
Oh man. Like for me, like as I've gotten older, the morning routine is like a sacred thing now. Like I just need 20 minutes of like time for me, like in the morning. And it's usually now like with a hot cup of coffee, ironically. But like the thing I want like at the beginning of every day to put me in the right state of mind to get through everything else is like just that moment to yourself. So if you got to get up a little early to do it, like I find that I'm way better in the late afternoon and at night if I have that 20-minute jump start, because then I don't feel like I'm behind the rest of the day.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh yeah.
So you get your affairs in order and then you're ahead of everything, and it just feels good to be ahead of everything.
Totally. Growing up, what were some of your favorite cartoons in the 80s or early 90s?
Oh man.
That comes up a lot here.
I've got my son. Yeah, I've got my son all about G.I. Joe. I grew up watching G.I. Joe. That was like a huge thing for me. But like even before that, like Hanna-Barbera Sundays. Gosh, why can't I remember the name of this cartoon sometimes? It was like a mom and a dad and their kids, and then there was like a rhino rock monster who shot like
Herculoids.
like Herculoids. That
Yep, I love that
cartoon
show.
to me,
That's my
Herculoids
jam right
was
there.
awesome, with the little ooze guy and the rhino guy and then the dragon. Yeah, that was a huge cartoon for me too. But then a cool thing happened to me in like the 90s. Like I started to, and it was because of the storytelling element. Like I started to really shift to like wanting to watch stuff like Pirates of Dark Water and stuff that had like a longer overarching story and wasn't like episode to episode. And so it was like a shame that like that thing ended without the story being told. But that was also a really cool cartoon that was like early 90s that I was a shame. But it was, now you have these like longer format cartoons like that go for a while and have really cool deep storytelling.
Mm-hmm.
And that was kind of like the beginning of that, like moving away from the toy style, storytelling and more into like, hey, we're gonna try something different here.
Right.
So
What are your thoughts on the Silver Age format?
Man, at first I was very intimidated by it. Like you're allowing all of the old like killers to come back. Right? It's like a horror movie. You're like, we've gotten rid of the guy, we've gotten rid of whatever the boogeyman is, right?
Yep.
And you think everybody can breathe again, and they're like, nope, we found a way to bring him back to life. And you're like, shit. But I do think it's like reopened. I thought it was going to be Pandora's box, but I think people have like settled into it where it's almost just like more fun for people to play with the things that they loved. You know what I mean?
Oh, yeah.
And so I like that.
Yeah, it's really taken off, and it's in a pretty good place right now. The next MCU movie is The Thunderbolts. That's one of my favorite books, kind of like Exiles, that I've read. And it seems like this is obviously going to be taking a very different route. What are your thoughts on this, and how do you like how it's being done?
I mean, it's like a mixture of things, Thunderbolt-ish, I guess.
Yeah.
But I feel like, for me, the MCU was so interesting in Phase 1 and Phase 2 because each character had their own genre that they were fitting in. And now I feel like everything is so jumbled and mixed a little bit that I was hoping that the Thunderbolts might kind of like stake its own claim to like a new kind of feeling of genre. And from the trailers, I'm not sure we're getting it. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
the street level stuff, like with this cast of characters, like, oh, is this a more street level kind of? Well, no, the big bad is clearly not. So I'm not sure where it falls for me. I used to love that. Captain America movies were. It was war and espionage, right? Like that was kind of what it felt like. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
at first, and like you had the big fantasy thing with Thor, and then everybody had their own. Ant-Man was a heist. Those are should have been heist films to me. Do you know what I mean? Like
Right.
should have got more of that kind of. Like the first Ant-Man movie was so good. It's a heist film. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
and I kind of liked all of that. But now I'm like, the bleed between Guardians and Thor has become a lot, and now the team movies are kind of like not staking their own claim to their own thing. So I still am very hopeful for it, though. I do like a lot of the characters, and I got to say, like Black Widow, I really enjoyed, and a lot of it was because of Harbor and Pew. So
Yeah.
hopefully a lot of that carries over for me.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Have you ever done an unboxing with something in your cup above a 0 proof?
No, but I did do the Indomitable show, the one I was talking about earlier, plenty of times with the little whiskey in the cup. But because I had both Cyclops and Cable.
Yeah.
And I would voice both of them. and Cyclops would constantly tell Cable to go get him some daddy juice. And it was like just whiskey, it's like it was just, go get daddy's juice, but it was Cyclops saying it to Cable instead. He was like, Dad, stop telling me to go get your juice. So yeah, I've had some whiskey in the cups there before, but never on an unboxing, no.
Okay. Here's my last one. If there was one character you voiced or played in a role, and you could take that and make a version into a Heroclix figure, who would that be?
Heimdall, 100%. Because the way that the God of War team approached him was such a unique take on Heimdall and the powers of all seeing, right? Like Heimdall sees across the universe and can open the Bifrost and can pull you out, save you, let you go somewhere, move you around, the 10 realms and this version of Heimdall had the Bifrost within him. And instead of sensing you elsewhere, he could sense your intentions right in front of him. And I think we've had pieces like this before because Midnighter from Authority is kind of like this, right? Like you can't touch him because he's prognosticating what your next moves are, right? So Heimdall is very much like that, but I like the idea of like a Heimdall that's almost like an untouchable thing. You know what I mean? As a Heroclix piece. I don't know how I translate completely, but that would be really cool.
No, that's a good answer. That's all I had. Did you guys have any questions for Porter?
I did not. No.
Damn.
I'm just glad that he's here. It's all.
I'll be on the judge staff this year, and I'm just excited to actually meet you in person. So that is something I'm looking forward to. It's not really a question; it's more of a statement. But
yeah, man, I'm super excited about that. That's awesome that you're going to be there this year in person, man. That's like I think I said that earlier in the pod. It was like, man, I get to meet people that I've known, in quotations, every single year, finally in person. And that's such a cool thing.
Pete, do you have anything for Scott?
I don't. Everybody kind of hit my questions. I just wanted to tell you, Scott, thank you very much for your time tonight and what you shared with us. Honestly, man, I love the charity event. Every year I look forward to it. It's where I save most of my charity dollars to go. So I'm just hoping that the community, once again, proves how great the community is.
Yeah, man, I can't be more grateful to you and to you guys here and for, giving me a platform to talk about it, raise awareness, and to share this all with the community. So, as much as you thank me for whatever this is, man, I thank you guys a millionfold. So.
Awesome. Yeah, it's been a blast. Yeah, thanks for joining us. Do you have any final thoughts that you want to share before we sign off here?
No, man. I can't wait to see everybody down in Huntsville. The event's going to be great. The new venue is awesome. The very important family, package that you get, like unlimited virtual reality play on top of getting pieces that we're giving away as prizing throughout the event, is also a nice little break from, if you just need to walk away from a table, because this game, as awesome as it is and as cool as our community is, can kind of wear you down sometimes if you're playing 4 days, straight days of tournaments. So having a nice alternative to do this it's just going to be cool, man. I think the environment's going to be awesome, and I think this is going to be our best one yet, and I just can't wait to see everybody. So thank you guys, and thank you to everybody out there listening.
Yeah, thanks for sticking with us for 2.5 hours here, and thanks for all your time. We appreciate it.
Of course. All right. I'll see you guys soon.
All right. Have a good one.
Yep. You have a good one.
You too.
See ya.
Peace.
And if you're not down with that, we got 2 words for ya!
Click it!
Oh no, my God.
'Cause I'm so